Chapter 2309. There were still 2 days left, which Nie Tian could use to recover his strength. Right now, he was waiting for the sage energy to purify the forbidden talismans inside of him. He had already experienced the benefits of the sage energy, and could sense how powerful it was. As long as the sage energy could purify the talismans, he would definitely be able to break through to the mid-paramount god level. And that would be a true mid-paramount god, not one that relied on the forbidden talismans. At that time, his battle prowess would rise again. QL11. What depressed him was that even though he had broken through to the paramount god level, he had only awakened the power of 800 billion stars. It was as if the last 100 billion stars and the 9th astral river just weren't willing to awaken. He had no choice but to slowly improve his cultivation base, hoping that when he reached the peak paramount god level, he would be able to awaken the last 100 billion stars. Right now, there was nothing he could do other than slowly improve his cultivation base, hoping that when he reached the peak paramount god level, he would be able to awaken the power of 100 billion stars. Perhaps the 9th astral river wasn't the end of the primal star stone, but a starting point. According to the mysterious man, the primal star stone was the cornerstone of the Star Saints world. It wasn't surprising that the cornerstone of the Star Saints world had secrets hidden within. It wasn't surprising that the primal star stone was the cornerstone of the Star Saints world. But Nie Tian had been chosen by the primal star stone for 5 million years before it finally acknowledged him. He was the only person in the past 5 million years to obtain the acknowledgement of the origin star stone. How could he be that simple? That mysterious man is the #1 emissary of the stars. I wonder what rank Patriarch Elysium is. Nie Tian's lips curled into a smile. The mysterious man claimed to be the #1 emissary of the stars, and the totem on the first astral river was his nascent spirit. Nie Tian was curious as to what rank Patriarch Elysium was. At that moment, Nie Tian suddenly thought of something. His eyes narrowed and his expression flickered. I went to the Cloud Valley Sagely Heaven to open the Sagely Heaven sword seal. All of this was arranged by the mysterious man. Nie Tian's heart trembled, his eyes filled with astonishment. In his heart there was a shocking speculation. The mysterious person already knew that the sacred heaven ancestor was a star messenger. Nie Tian was saved by Jun Ouching, and then he entered the Cloud Valley Sacred Heaven and opened the Sacred Heaven sword seal. These were the conditions that the mysterious man and Jun Chujian had already negotiated. Only when Nie Tian opened the Sacred Heaven sword seal did he find out that the Sacred Heaven ancestor was a star messenger. Then, it was highly possible that the mysterious person already knew Sacred Heaven ancestor's identity, which was why he let Nie Tian open the Sacred Heaven sword seal. That must be it, that must be it. The more Nie Tian thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. While he was excited, he frowned. The mysterious man's arrangement scared him a lot. Previously, when he activated the Sacred Heaven sword seal, he almost died in the hands of the Sacred Heaven ancestor. Boss Nie Tian, are you alright? Gale Xiao Xiao asked when he noticed the strange expression on Nie Tian's face. I'm fine. Nie Tian shook his head with a bitter smile. When the mysterious man returned, he would definitely ask him about it. Teacher's courtyard was destroyed. What do we do now? Are we still going to wait here? Gale Xiao Xiao looked at the ruins in front of him and smiled bitterly. Wait a moment. Zhuozhuo laughed. Her silhouette flickered as she appeared in a spacious area. He formed a seal with his hand. Then, the ground seemed to sense something and slowly cracked open, revealing an underground passage. It's the aura of an array. Nie Tian frowned and immediately understood. Zhuozhuo had even prepared a secret chamber underground. Everyone, let's enter the secret chamber. Zhuozhuo smiled faintly and gestured for them to enter. Everyone didn't stand on ceremony and walked over, preparing to enter the secret chamber. However, at this moment, Zhuozhuo's expression suddenly changed as he looked up into the sky. Nie Tian also felt something. He looked up and saw a familiar figure high up in the sky. The mysterious man. He's back! Nie Tian exclaimed in his heart. Then, he realized something was wrong and his eyes darkened. He only saw the mysterious man. He didn't see Rui Qianyu or Nie Yuro. The mysterious man stood high up in the sky and glanced at Nie Tian. The corners of his mouth curled up into an undetectable smile and he said, Nie Tian, come with me. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. He turned around and greeted Zhuozhuo and the others. Then, he moved and came to the mysterious man's side. Zhuozhuo and the others watched as the two left and entered the underground secret chamber. The mysterious man and Nie Tian quickly came to a forest outside the dark night mountains. As the two landed, the mysterious man's eyes couldn't help but look at Nie Tian. He couldn't help but reveal a strange smile and said, Nie Tian, you really didn't disappoint me. The primal star stone spent 5 million years to find the right person. Nie Tian bitterly smiled and said, it seems that you already knew that divine heaven ancestor is a star messenger, right? You can't say that. The mysterious man shook his head and said, there is no connection between the 9 star messengers. I only guessed that divine heaven ancestor might be a star messenger. Since you received the recognition of the sacred heaven sword soul, it means that divine heaven ancestor is indeed one of the 9 star messengers. Nie Tian was taken aback and speechless. It seemed that the mysterious man was very familiar with the sacred heaven sword seal, but he took a huge risk on Nie Tian. You aren't sure of divine heaven ancestor's identity. Aren't you afraid that I will die in the hands of the sacred heaven sword soul? Nie Tian bitterly smiled and asked. The mysterious man laughed and said, you are the one chosen by the primal star stone. I believe that you won't die so easily. Nie Tian was speechless. He really didn't know where the mysterious man got his confidence from. Nie Tian, there is a strand of saint aura in your body. It came from the primal star stone, right? The mysterious man's eyes flickered as he looked at Nie Tian and asked with a smile. Yes. Nie Tian nodded and didn't deny it. The saint aura in his body came from the saint soul in the 8th layer of the galaxy. Very well, there are 2 more days. I will help you completely integrate the saint aura. The mysterious man smiled faintly and said, your strength is still too weak. There will be a fierce battle waiting for you. What do you mean? Nie Tian locked his brows together. The mysterious man sighed, I already know what you did in the Cloud Valley Sacred Heavens. I never expected that the activation of the Sacred Heaven Sword seal would alarm the Heavenly Evil family. Since Jun Aoqing is with you and has activated the Nether Ghost Meridian, then the Heavenly Evil Monarch will definitely appear again. Nie Tian's face sank as he replied, I have already made an agreement with the Heavenly Evil Monarch, so he won't come looking for Jun Aoqing, right? Your agreement can still be maintained before Jun Aoqing activates the Nether Ghost Meridian. The mysterious man smiled as he continued, but the situation is completely different now that Jun Aoqing has activated the Nether Ghost Meridian. You don't understand how important the Nether Ghost Meridian is to the Heavenly Evil Monarch. Chapter 23:10. Hearing the mysterious person's words, Nie Tian squinted his eyes with worry on his face. The things that the mysterious man knew were far more than he had imagined. Looking at the mysterious person's confident expression, it was as if everything was within his expectations. The fact that the Heavenly Evil Monarch would come again made Nie Tian worried. He vaguely felt that even the mysterious person might not be the Heavenly Evil Monarch's opponent. The Heavenly Evil Monarch is an enemy that I have never expected. Even I have no idea how powerful he is. The mysterious person shook his head and sighed, I'm afraid that fellow will be troublesome. Nie Tian knitted his brows even tighter. If even the mysterious person felt troublesome, then this matter would be troublesome. At this moment, Nie Tian suddenly thought of Rui Qianyu and Nie Yuro and couldn't help feeling nervous. Where's Rui Qianyu and ninth sister? I'm sorry, but you might not be able to see them for a period of time. The mysterious person knew that Nie Tian would ask this question, so his tone was a little peculiar. What do you mean? Did something happen to them? Nie Tian's face sank as he pursued. Nothing happened to them. The mysterious person replied before he continued, but they won't be appearing for the time being. I've found a teacher for them. They will be following that teacher in the near future. Teacher? Nie Tian's eyes trembled with rage on his face. Why are you doing this? Did they request it? Or is it your decision? It's my decision. The mysterious person had already expected that Nie Tian would be unhappy, so he replied, I know that you're unhappy with my decision. But you will soon find out that I made this decision only to save you. Furthermore, the teacher that I found for the two ladies is one of the pinnacle powerhouses in the abandoned land. At the very least, the two ladies will be safer following that teacher than following you. You have something that you have to do now. This is something you must accomplish. This is your destiny. You can't escape it. You can't avoid it. I'm helping you complete your destiny. I will not allow anyone to be an obstacle to you. Hindrance? Nie Tianling chuckled. The destiny you speak of refers to the rebuilding of the Starry Sky sacred domain, right? I will do this, and I will definitely succeed. But I'm not doing this because of what you call fate. I only feel that since the Origin Star Stone chose me and allowed me to reach this point, I will repay the Origin Star Stone in my own way. The mysterious man sensed that Nie Tian was truly angry, so his tone softened. Nie Tian, just remember to rebuild the Starry Sky sacred world. Everything I've done is to help you. Nie Tian glanced at the mysterious man, but his tone was still tough. He said, I accept your help. But I have to remind you that you must remember who you are. QL 11-inch I am the future Star Saint, and you are the Star Emissary. So the next time you make a decision, you better tell me. Especially when it comes to the people around me, there are some decisions that you can't make. Got it. The mysterious man was not angry at Nie Tian's tough attitude. Instead, he was very calm and even a little happy. Nie Tian's strong attitude had given him greater hope. If the future Star Sky sacred leader was a yes man who only did things according to his orders, he would be no different from a puppet. To become the Star Saint, one must have his own opinions. To be firm and not be influenced by others was the most basic requirement of a ruler. If Nie Tian only obeyed and never objected, then it would be a real tragedy. With a faint smile, the mysterious man said, Nie Tian, I look forward to the day you become the Star Domain's Saint Lord. Nie Tian nodded slightly, his expression calmer. He was not a person who would easily get angry, but if something involved the people around him, especially his loved ones, he would definitely get angry. He did not get angry when the mysterious man asked him to activate the sacred Heaven Sword seal and risk his life. However, Rui Qianyu and Nieyuro were the people closest to him. He would not allow anyone to influence his loved ones. Nie Tian, we don't have much time left. I will now help you completely assimilate the Saint Qi in your body, the mysterious man said when he saw that Nie Tian had calmed down. Nie Tian nodded. He still had many questions in his mind, but the mysterious man did not seem to be willing to speak, so he did not ask. He felt that many questions would be answered in 2 days. Next, the two came to a remote valley. After making sure that there was no one around, Nie Tian sat with his legs crossed and entered into a state of cultivation. With a faint smile, the mysterious man sent out a stream of boundless power from his palm. With a wave of his hand, he enveloped Nie Tian. Nie Tian felt his body being enveloped by a majestic force, which made him feel extremely pressured. However, he did not make any noise and endured the pressure in silence. Calm your heart, circulate your yuan meridians, and feel the flow of energy in your body. The mysterious man reminded Nie Tian. Nie Tian remained calm. The 9 dragon meridians in his body circulated slowly, emitting streams of energy that circulated in his limbs. At this moment, he did not have any obvious feelings, but he could faintly feel that there was a mysterious force slowly and steadily being released from his body. That mysterious power was extremely magical. It was like an invisible hand that flowed through every part of his body, slowly changing his martial body. Very good. The mysterious man smiled in satisfaction as he sensed Nye Tian's condition. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the valley, Nye Tian had completely absorbed the energy flowing around his body. It's about time. The mysterious man sensed Nye Tian's condition and said calmly. At that instant, Nye Tian's body trembled slightly, and a series of black runes surged out of his body. They were the forbidden art runes. Nye Tian could feel the forbidden art runes losing control, but he did not panic at all. Boom! In the next moment, a strange force surged out of his body, and instantly enveloped the forbidden art runes around him. Following this, Nye Tian could clearly feel the aura of the forbidden art runes around him weakening. At the same time, he could feel the energy in his body steadily increasing. The sage Qi purified the forbidden art runes and turned them into energy for Nye Tian to absorb. He should be able to make a breakthrough, the mysterious man said worriedly as he watched from the side. He was very excited to see Nye Tian's strength increase once again. Boom! At that instant, the forbidden art runes around Nye Tian's body began to go berserk. Following this, the forbidden art runes turned into streams of energy that surged back into Nye Tian's body. A moment later, everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Nye Tian's tightly shut eyes sprang open. His eyes were crystal clear and sparkling like stars. The aura around him was abnormally sharp, and it was as if he was showing off his ability. Chapter 23:11. Sensing the change in Nye Tian's aura, the mysterious man blurted, "You've gotten stronger, Nye Tian." "Yeah," Nye Tian replied calmly. He simply nodded, but couldn't hide the joy on his face. Probing his martial body, he could no longer sense the aura of the talismans. Mouth twitching, Nye Tian murmured, "Excellent. The talismans have been purified by the energy of a sage." Last time, the talismans had been purified by the energy of a sage, and the level of the talismans had dropped. This time, the magical symbols were completely purified and vanished from Nye Tian's body. Henceforth, he would no longer be suppressed by the talismans. Next, Nye Tian examined his aura and found that it was much stronger than before. Even when he had used his 3 forbidden skills, he hadn't been as strong as he was now. Earlier, he had used his 3 forbidden magics to push him to the level of a late paramount god. But that had only been because of the talismans. In the end, it hadn't been his true strength. But now, he was a true mid-paramount god. Nye Tian was confident that he could kill an ordinary peak paramount god in the blink of an eye. That level of battle prowess was terrifying. After all, Nye Tian was only a mid-paramount god. In the paramount god level, it was a terrifying feat to be able to surpass 2 sublevels. "Our guests should be arriving soon," the mysterious man said with a faint smile. "Let's go, Nye Tian. We're going to meet the true experts in the land of the Forsaken." "All right," Nye Tian said, nodding. He was looking forward to seeing what was going to happen next. He had the premonition that whoever was behind Dark Knight Minjia would show up today. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at Dark Knight City. Only then did Nye Tian realize that the entire city was empty. There wasn't a single person on the street. "The city is empty," the mysterious man said coolly. "It seems the guy has given up on the Sage World Fragment." Nye Tian frowned. There was bound to be a huge battle soon. Previously, when Anya Minjia and Sikong Xuani were fighting, he had said that if the 2 of them were to fight to the death, the sacred world fragment beneath their feet would probably be destroyed. Now that the Dark Knight City was empty, it meant that the person behind Dark Knight Minjia had made a decision. Even if they had to destroy a fragment of the saint's world, they had to keep Nie Tian alive. Nie Tian glanced at the mysterious man. Although he could not see the latter's face clearly, he could feel that the latter was very calm. This fellow is so calm. It seems like he has already arranged everything. Nie Tian laughed inwardly. His nervousness was slightly relieved. He's here. Right at that moment, the mysterious person suddenly spoke. His tone carried a trace of playfulness. Before he finished speaking, countless black-clothed figures appeared high up in the sky. Looking up, it was like rolling dark clouds, causing the entire sky to become much gloomier. Who would have thought that the first to arrive would be people from the Dying Night Empire? The mysterious man looked up into the sky and couldn't help but laugh. It's the Dying Night Star Guard again, Nie Tian said, frowning, his face very grim. He couldn't be more familiar with the auras of these black-clothed warriors. They were the Dying Night Star Guard that he had fought several times before. But this time, the strength of these passing Night Imperial Guards was clearly much stronger than before. 3 months had passed, and the rules were no longer binding him. The Dying Night Star Guard were all peak paramount gods. Nie Tian estimated that there were at least several thousand dead Night Guards standing in front of him. The fact that the dead Night Empire had so many peak paramount gods was a terrifying thing to behold. After all, the total number of peak paramount gods in the 9 realm verses was only about 100. The land of the abandoned was far stronger than the 9 realm verses. We meet again, Nie Tian. At that moment, a figure stepped out of thin air and stared at Nie Tian with a pair of cold, vicious eyes in an extremely arrogant manner. Yi Chunli. Nie Tian couldn't help but laugh when he saw the other party's face. He said mockingly, "You're really courageous. I cut off one of your arms last time, and now you dare to show yourself in front of me? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you with my sword?" Nie Tian, you're too arrogant. When Yi Chunli heard Nie Tian's mocking words, his eyes couldn't help but turn cold. The aura around him was released wildly, and he said arrogantly, "Last time, I destroyed my own martial arts foundation, and you took advantage of me. But now, my martial arts foundation has been restored, and my strength has increased. What right do you have to be so arrogant in front of me, you little scum?" Huh! Nie Tian looked at Yi Chunli's aura, and his eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but be surprised. Right now, Yi Chunli's aura was many times stronger than it had been a few days ago. It seemed that Yi Chunli had used some tricks to restore his martial arts foundation, and even his strength had returned to the peak of the paramount god level. In the past, Yi Chunli was nothing in Nie Tian's eyes. He could kill him with a single sword strike. QL11. But now that Yi Chunli's strength had been restored, it was a different story. However, Nie Tian naturally wouldn't be afraid of him, because Nie Tian's strength had also increased. Nie Tian, do you dare to fight me? Yi Chunli was extremely arrogant, and his eyes were somber. He pointed at Nie Tian and shouted, "Do you think I'm afraid of a moron?" Nie Tianling laughed, and he was just as arrogant. Yi Chunli took a step forward, and his eyes swept across the mysterious man. He said loudly, "Nie Tian, let's have a fair fight. No one else is allowed to interfere. How about that?" When the mysterious man heard Yi Chunli's words, he couldn't help but laugh. He said indifferently, "Ignorant kid, you think too highly of yourself. You don't have what it takes for me to fight you." Yi Chunli's words seemed smart, but they were actually laughable. Given the mysterious man's status and strength, how could he possibly attack him? "Senior is an expert. With your guarantee, I will be able to fight freely." Yi Chunli wasn't too stupid. He smiled slightly and bowed to the mysterious person. "Don't worry, I won't interfere." The mysterious man smiled faintly and then said, "But I won't interfere, and no one else is allowed to interfere either." As he spoke, his eyes swept across the void and he said loudly, "Especially those guys hiding in the dark." Just as he finished speaking, the void strangely trembled a few times. following which 3 black-clothed figures appeared high up in the sky. Old Ancestor Dead Knight. When Nye Tian saw the 3 figures, he couldn't help but shudder. He recognized one of them. It was the Old Ancestor Dead Knight that he had seen before. However, at this moment, there were 2 other figures beside the Old Ancestor Dead Knight. Although they were trying their best to conceal their aura, they still couldn't hide their powerful aura. Those 2 figures stood next to the Old Ancestor Dead Knight. Not only was their aura not weaker than the Old Ancestor Dead Knight's, but it was even stronger. The 3 Old Ancestors Dead Knight are all here. When the mysterious man saw the 3 figures, he smiled faintly and said in a mocking manner, "This is going to be interesting." Chapter 23:12. The Dead Knight Empire was a terrifying imperial organization that hid in the shadows. The Darkmoon Empire, the Dark Knight Azura, and even the Darkmoon Church that Xian Zongfeng belonged to were all vassals of the Dead Knight Empire. The Dead Knight Empire was an empire founded by the Night Elves, and was a peak faction in the entire Forsaken Land. The most fundamental reason for the Dead Knight Empire's terror was the existence of the 3 ancestors of the Dead Knight. It was rumored that the 3 ancestors of the Dead Knight were all demi-saints, much more powerful than demi-saints. It was already frightening for an organization or faction to have 1 demi-saint. The Dead Knight Empire had 3 demi-saints at the same time, and their power was imaginable. The mysterious man did not expect that the 3 ancestors of the Dead Knight would appear at the same time, which left him very surprised. "You really are a true champion, Your Excellency," one of the 3 ancestors of the Dead Knight said somberly. "It seems that it was a wise choice for all 3 of us to appear at the same time. Is that so?" The mysterious man smiled faintly and said directly, "In my opinion, it would be a wiser choice for all of you to leave now." Insolence! The 3 ancestors of the Dead Knight growled at the same time as they sensed the will of Gale coming from the mysterious man. One of them then took a step forward and said with a low voice, "I admit that Your Excellency is very powerful and must be a demi-saint. Any one of us would not be a match for Your Excellency if we were to fight alone. But if the 3 of us work together, Your Excellency, what are your chances of victory?" The low and deep voice was filled with an extremely strong provocation. "All of you can try." The mysterious man smiled faintly, doing his best to keep his voice calm. Nye Tian, however, frowned slightly. He could feel that the mysterious man was a little nervous. There were 3 tiers between supreme gods and saints: demi-saint, demi-saint, and demi-saint. The 3 patriarchs were all demi-saint. The mysterious man, on the other hand, was a demi-saint. Nye Tian did not know what his chances of victory were against 3 demi-saints at the same time. His ability was too weak, and he could not comprehend the power of demi-saints and demi-saints. Still, he knew that Dark Knight Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan had joined hands to injure the mysterious man with a single sword strike. Both Dark Knight Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were demi-saints, and their sword wills were the exact opposite of each other. The 3 forefathers of the Dead Knight were all experts of the same bloodline. If they worked together, they would definitely have great teamwork. Their strength would be extremely terrifying. Even the mysterious man might not be able to withstand the joint attack of the 3 ancestral patriarchs. "Sir, don't be too arrogant," one of the patriarchs said with a cold laugh. It was clear that he was extremely furious. "Don't be anxious. Let these 2 juniors fight first." The other progenitor laughed and said, "I'd like to see how strong the person who dares to rob our Death Knight royal clan is." "Very well," the 3rd progenitor said with a smile. Yi Chunli bowed deeply and said respectfully, "3 ancestors, Chunli will definitely not disappoint you." As soon as he finished speaking, he moved and arrived at an empty space in the sky, waiting for Nye Tian's arrival. "Nye Tian, don't kill him." Before Nye Tian could move, he heard the mysterious man's voice. "All right." After hesitating for a moment, Nye Tian nodded. His original plan was to kill Yi Chunli directly. However, the mysterious man seemed to be worried about something, and did not want him to kill Yi Chunli. Nie Tian guessed that the mysterious man did not want to completely offend the dead Night Empire. Not killing Yi Chunli was so that there would be some room for negotiation between the two sides. From the mysterious man's worry, it could be seen that he was rather wary of the three ancestors of the dead knight. Nie Tian, let us have a duel to the death. Yi Chunli stood high in the sky and looked at Nie Tian with a cold gaze as he spoke in a wild voice. Nie Tian's figure moved and leaped into the sky to confront Yi Chunli. His lips curled into a cold smile as he smiled faintly and said, Yi Chunli, a duel to the death requires an opponent of equal strength. With all due respect, you are not qualified to have a duel to the death with me. His voice was calm, but it was filled with insolence. Arrogant. Yi Chunli was instantly infuriated by Nie Tian, and he roared. Then, his figure moved, and the sword intent around him was released wildly. Li Yuan was held in his hand. Boom! Yi Chunli slashed with his sword, and a terrifying dark sword shadow rushed towards Nie Tian like a curtain that covered the sky. QL11 facing Yi Chunli's tyrannical sword, Nie Tian was not afraid at all. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, and he was very mocking. Extreme Young Sky Armor, activate! His lips moved and he spoke faintly. A layer of white light lit up on his body, and it condensed into a terrifying battle armor. Yi Chunli, I want to see how strong your sword intent is. Nie Tian stood where he was and did not move at all, waiting for Yi Chunli's sword to reach him. You're courting death. Seeing that Nie Tian did not move, Yi Chunli roared, and the killing intent in his eyes was extremely thick. This kid is so insolent. Seeing this, the eyes of the three patriarchs trembled, and their faces turned cold. Nie Tian's current actions were incomparably arrogant. Standing there without moving, it was obvious that he did not see Yi Chunli as a real opponent. Nie Tian, aren't you a little too much? The mysterious man frowned and thought to himself. He was a little worried. He knew that Nie Tian was strong, but this kind of action was a little risky. Yi Chunli was a peak paramount god, and one of the 9 sons of heaven in the land of the Forsaken. He was a genius martial artist at the peak. To look down on Yi Chunli like this, Nie Tian was really too arrogant. Die! Yi Chunli felt like he had been greatly insulted, and he roared, and his killing intent was thick. Boom! Bang! The next moment, the dark sword shadow landed, and there was a huge explosion, followed by a dull sound. The battle armor on Nie Tian's body shattered, and he was directly sent flying. His figure was like a kite with a broken string, drawing a dark trajectory in the air, and he actually fell to the ground. Arrogant kid, I thought you were strong. Turns out you're just a piece of trash. Seeing this scene, one of the 3 patriarchs laughed coldly, and he was very disdainful. Is that so? However, before he finished speaking, another voice rang out. It was Nie Tian. Boom! Almost at the same time, the astral soul wings spread out behind Nie Tian's back, and his figure directly stabilized, and he stood upright in midair. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, but the aura around his body did not weaken in the slightest, and his eyes were still sharp. How is this possible? Yi Chunli's eyes trembled, and he cried out in shock. Nie Tian stood there, took a blow from his sword, and was actually fine. How strong exactly was Nie Tian's martial body? Yi Chunli, is this your strength? It's really too weak, and it's only enough to tickle me. Nie Tianling laughed, and then the aura around his body crazily rose, and he said in a loud voice, Next, it's time for me to make a move. You will soon know exactly how great the gap between us is. Chapter 23:13. Nie Tian's voice reverberated in the sky. It was like a clap of thunder exploding in Yi Chunli's ears. At this moment, he was completely stunned by Nie Tian. He had already used all his strength in that sword attack just now, but it only caused a slight injury to Nie Tian. This was too terrifying. Originally, he thought that after he recovered his strength, Even if he could not crush Nietian, he could at least defeat the latter easily. Now, it seemed that he was too optimistic. In these few days, it was not only him who improved in strength. Nietian's strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. Human sword-cutting stars. At this time, Nietian's figure moved. After a low roar, the wings on his back shook. Like a startled swan, he whizzed out swiftly and fiercely. He did not give Yi Chunli any chance and directly used the human sword-cutting stars. He really wanted to know how strong the power of his human sword-cutting stars would be after his advancement in strength. Boom! Nietian was in midair, and the stars heaven slashed out wildly. Endless sword intent instantly gathered, condensing into an enormous sword shadow, and headed for Yi Chunli. Yi Chunli had yet to recover from the huge shock. When he felt the ferocious sword intent, he was completely awake. "Watch out!" the dead knight third ancestor exclaimed at almost the same time. Yi Chunli was the most talented person in the younger generation of the dead knight royal family. If he died in the hands of Nietian, it would be a great loss. Ah! Yi Chunli reacted instantly. The dark aura around him surged out violently, and the Li Yuan dark sunken sword struck out again. He really did not believe that Nietian was really that strong. In the sky, the two sword shadows were like two wild beasts rushing over wildly. One sword light, one sword darkness. They were clearly separated, and the sword intents were diametrically opposed. Boom! In the next moment, the two sword shadows collided head-on. The violent aura instantly exploded, and the surrounding space shook slightly. The two sword shadows were extremely powerful. At the beginning, they maintained a stalemate. However, it only lasted for a few seconds before the black sword shadow suddenly shook and collapsed. The sword light of the starlight sword instantly surged, and the brilliance of the sword filled the sky. It was as though tens of thousands of stars were falling, and the scene was extremely dazzling. However, within this beautiful scene, there was a strong murderous intent. No! Yi Chunli suddenly felt the powerful sword force that was coming toward him and cried out in alarm. He was so frightened that his face turned pale. "Don't kill him!" At the same time, the third ancestor of Death Knight cried out. His face was pale. If this sword force were to land, Yi Chunli would die miserably on the spot even if he had 10 lives. The mysterious man's eyes suddenly trembled, and his heart jumped to his throat. But at the most critical moment, the sword shadow in the air strangely deviated a little. The violent sword aura brushed past Yi Chunli's body as it flew past. Half of Yi Chunli's body was drenched in blood from the impact of the sword force. However, his life was saved. "Consider yourself lucky." Nie Tianling laughed, and his gaze swept over Yi Chunli with disdain. He had once said that the next time he saw Yi Chunli would be the day the latter died. And he indeed had the strength to kill Yi Chunli. But since the mysterious man spoke and did not let Nie Tian kill Yi Chunli, Nie Tian naturally showed mercy. However, Nie Tian felt that the mysterious man making such a decision might not be correct. Would the third ancestor of the dying knight really let bygones be bygones just because Nie Tian showed mercy to Yi Chunli? This did not seem very likely. Nie Tian respected the mysterious man, so he did as the latter said. I didn't die." Yi Chunli was stunned on the spot and only reacted after a long time. His throat rolled, and he opened his mouth with a trembling voice, wild with joy. The next moment, he looked at Nie Tian rather doubtfully, not understanding why the latter did not kill him. But Nie Tian completely ignored him. His figure moved, and he returned to the mysterious man's side. Yi Chunli's face was aghast, and he returned to the side of the third ancestor of Death Knight resentfully. He even said just now that he definitely would not disappoint the 3 ancestors. But the outcome in reality was that he was completely crushed by Nie Tian. "The 3 of you, not killing His Highness the Crown Prince just now, consider it a small gift from me to the 3 of you." At this time, the mysterious man opened his mouth and said coolly, The three of you, can you leave now? The eyes of the third ancestor of Death Knight trembled at the same time, staring at Nye Tian with a burning gaze. Clearly, they were transmitting voice to each other, discussing something. After a moment, one of the three people stepped out, smiled sinisterly, and said, "If you tell us to leave, we'll leave. Isn't that too laughable? Since the competition between the two juniors has already ended, then next, it should be our battle." The sinister voice fell, revealing a piercing aura. The mysterious man's body swayed slightly, clearly very surprised. He originally thought that the third ancestor of Death Knight would leave just like this, but he did not expect that these three people actually refused to let it go. Nye Tian's reaction was not too surprised. He had long known that the matter would not end here. The third ancestor of Death Knight was clearly not a cowardly person, and it would be a little ridiculous if they were to be scared away just like that. At this time, Nye Tian could clearly feel a slight fluctuation in the mysterious man's aura. Clearly, he was very wary of the third ancestor of Death Knight. "QL 11-inch Senior, are you all right?" Nye Tian secretly transmitted his voice to the mysterious man, feeling very worried. He felt that even if the mysterious man's strength was a little inferior against the third ancestor of Death Knight, he should not be completely crushed. Moreover, the mysterious man was a pseudo-saint, while the third ancestor of Death Knight was only a demi-saint. "Nye Tian, my injuries have not healed yet. I have no confidence against these three." The mysterious man transmitted his voice back, as if there was something he could not say. Nye Tian frowned. He did not expect that the joint attack of Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan would deal such a huge blow to the mysterious man. Moreover, the mysterious man seemed to be very wary of the third ancestor of Death Knight. In fact, the mysterious man's heart was indeed filled with indescribable pain. He had never revealed his identity to Nye Tian. He was a radiant elf. On the other hand, the third ancestor of Death Knight were dark elves, which naturally suppressed him in terms of attributes. The mysterious man had a good chance of winning against three ordinary demi-saint champions, but against the third ancestor of Death Knight, he really had no chance at all. "What? Are you afraid?" Seeing that the mysterious man did not speak for a long time, the third ancestor of Death Knight sneered together. "I never thought that a great pseudo-saint would actually be afraid. Three old farts. If you want to fight, why don't I accompany you?" That was when a vigorous voice suddenly echoed in the void, and soon, a sword silhouette descended like a rainbow. "Leader!" Nye Tian looked at the sword silhouette and saw a familiar figure, Jun Chujian. "You're finally here, Jun Chujian." The mysterious man breathed a long sigh of relief when he saw Jun Chujian's figure, and his tone became much more relaxed. Nye Tian's eyes narrowed as he quickly understood something. He had known before that there was a hidden deal between the mysterious man and Jun Chujian. Now, he knew that the hidden deal was Jun Chujian's appearance. "It's you." The third ancestor of Death Knight's expression changed at once, and all of them looked at Jun Chujian in surprise. Chapter 23:14. Jun Chujian's sudden appearance had left the three Death ancestors shocked. The three of them clearly knew who Jun Chujian was, since there was a trace of fear in their eyes. Jun Chujian had a great reputation in the abandoned land. He was known as the #1 swordsman in the abandoned land, and his strength in the sword Dao was even above the three legends. The three Death ancestors weren't afraid of a single Jun Chujian. But if Jun Chujian joined hands with the mysterious man, then their chances of winning would be slim. "Alliance Lord." One of the three ancestors of the passing night stepped forward and stared at Jun Chujian coldly. He then said, "I didn't expect you to appear here. What a surprise. It seems that this matter has nothing to do with your sacred Heavenly Sword Alliance." "Alliance Lord, are you sure that you want to interfere?" Although he was trying to persuade, his tone contained a hint of threat. "Three ancestors, I came under the invitation of an old friend," Jun Chujian faintly smiled. "If you guys want to touch him, then you'll have to get through I first. His calm words made his attitude clear, which left the three death ancestors dumbfounded. Indeed, Jun Chujian's arrival wasn't a coincidence. He's really here to help the mysterious man. Looking at Jun Chujian, Nie Tian's expression gradually turned grave. If Jun Chujian was the mysterious man's trump card, then this trump card was a little too weak. Just the three death ancestors, the mysterious man, and Jun Chujian were already having a hard time. Furthermore, the Death Knight Empire wasn't their strongest enemy. There was an even more terrifying existence behind Anya Minjia. Furthermore, Jun Aoqing had activated her Nether Ghost bloodline, which meant that the heavenly evil monarch would also be here. If all of them came, then just the mysterious man and Jun Chujian wouldn't be enough. I hope you found another helper. Nie Tian glanced at the mysterious man and thought to himself. Jun Chujian, do you insist on interfering? The other progenitor's face darkened as he uttered in a cold voice. Three ancestors of the passing night, if you leave now, I, Jun Chujian, will owe you a favor. How about it? Jun Chujian's expression also became gloomy as he spoke in a loud voice. Experts were all afraid of each other. If they could avoid fighting, it would be best not to. I'm sorry, but you, Jun Chujian, don't have enough face. The patriarch laughed coldly, his eyes filled with killing intent. Since that's the case, let me experience the strength of the Death Knight third ancestor. Jun Chujian's eyes darkened as he sneered. As you wish. The three ancestors of the passing night spoke at the same time. The aura of the three rose in an instant and linked together like a roaring ocean, causing the world around them to tremble. Nie Tian felt the aura of the three ancestors of the passing night and could not help but narrow his eyes as he was rather shocked. The three ancestors of the passing night were martial artists of the same bloodline, and their tacit understanding was truly frightening. QL11 The combined aura of three demi-saint elites was indeed powerful, even more terrifying than that of the mysterious man. Nie Tian, back off. The mysterious man warned Nie Tian. Then, his figure flashed and he leaped into the air. Jun Chujian's power alone was clearly not enough to fight against the three ancestors of the passing night. Nie Tian stomped on the ground and left, retreating tens of thousands of meters away. No one knew what would happen next in the battle between the five great super-rankers. Pseudo-Saint, the three ancestors of the passing night would like to see just how powerful you really are. The three ancestors of the passing night sneered at the same time. Then, the three of them moved and stood in three different positions as a vast aura of a formation filled the air. Not good. The mysterious man's eyes narrowed as he exclaimed in his mind. The three ancestors of the passing night were forming some sort of formation, and coupled with their own strength, it would be extremely terrifying. I'll break the formation. At that moment, Jun Chujian let out a low roar as the aura of his entire body was unleashed. His sword will surged like a roaring ocean, and his aura was terrifying. Boom! In the next instant, he slashed down with his sword. The shadow of the sword was like a mountain as it descended, causing the world to be silent. Boom! The moment the shadow of the sword fell, the void trembled violently, but the formation of the three ancestors of the passing night was not damaged at all. The passing night imperial guards around them were affected by the powerful impact and retreated one after another. Nie Tian, too, felt the unparalleled impact. The wings behind his back flapped violently as he retreated again. The formation of the three ancestors of the passing night was extremely powerful. Jun Chujian's all-out attack didn't have any effect. Jun Chujian's figure retreated slightly, and his eyes were filled with shock. He didn't expect the combined strength of the three ancestors of the passing night to be so powerful. Hand of Night! At that moment, the three ancestors of the passing night roared in unison and attacked together. In the void, a dark shadow of a palm appeared. It was vast and mighty, like a black curtain that covered the sky, and it descended mightily. The surrounding heaven and earth turned dark, and the air was filled with an extremely dense aura of darkness. Nye Tian felt a suffocating pressure. He frowned, and his eyes were filled with worry. In the next instant, the hand of night fell towards Jun Chujian, and its mighty aura shook the heavens and earth. Jun Chujian frowned, and his long sword rose into the air. He turned into a streak of light as he charged towards the dark shadow of the palm. Seeing this, Nye Tian's eyes tensed up. The battle between these experts was too horrifying. At the same time, the mysterious man also attacked. His body surged with white light like a golden sun, and it released thousands of rays of light. Chi chi chi. In the void there was a piercing sound. This was the confrontation between light and darkness. The space kept shaking, as if the heavens and earth were about to collapse. The crowd's eyes trembled, and their expressions were filled with extreme shock. They had never seen such a horrifying scene in their lives. Rumble. Bang bang bang. On the ground, the sound of something tearing and shattering could be heard everywhere. The entire dark night city, under the impact of the boundless power, was slowly collapsing, and gradually became a ruin. Nye Tian could even feel that the ground was shaking, and terrifying cracks appeared on the ground, as if it was about to be completely torn apart. Bang! At that moment, a figure broke through the dark shadow of the palm, and stood in the sky. It was Jun Chujian. Rumble! In the next instant, the horrifying shadow of the palm fell, and heavily smashed on the ground. The earth sank, and a vast amount of dust and turbid waves rose into the sky. The entire heaven and earth became chaotic. At that moment, the dark night city had completely turned into a ruin. This was the power of an expert. A city with a radius of a few hundred miles was instantly turned into ruins. Brother Jun, the formation of the three ancestors of the dead knight needs 3 experts to break it. At that moment, the mysterious man said loudly to Jun Chujian, "It's up to you now." Hearing the mysterious man's words, Nye Tian's eyes couldn't help but freeze, and he immediately understood. The formation of the 3 ancestors of the dead knight was formed by the combined efforts of 3 people. It needed 3 experts to break it. Now, there was only the mysterious man and Jun Chujian. Even if the 2 of them attacked at the same time, it wouldn't be enough. Another expert needed to appear. Chapter 23:15. Nye Tian was puzzled. He leaped higher into the air and stared at Jun Chujian. Understood. Jun Chujian's voice was heard from high up in the sky. In the next moment, something strange happened. Jun Chujian's body shook slightly. A figure that looked exactly like him appeared beside him. Even the aura were the same as his. This is a doppelganger? Nye Tian's voice trembled when he saw this. He even suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. He saw a figure that looked exactly like Jun Chujian. Moreover, he could feel that they were exactly the same. Martial body, soul, aura, and demeanor were all the same. Nye Tian could also condense a doppelganger with his sword will. However, his doppelganger was very different from his original body and could be easily distinguished. However, the 2 Jun Chujian in front of him could not be distinguished at all. This was not a doppelganger at all. It was another version of himself. Nye Tian, this is the old man's soul doppelganger. Just as Nye Tian was shocked, Fat Cat's voice was heard. Soul doppelganger? Nye Tian was stunned. He did not quite understand. The divine 3 realms of Sword Tao, Divine Sword Soul and Divine Sword Body, are formed by fusing sword will with the swordsman's own soul, Fat Cat explained. Divine Sword Soul is actually the swordsman's second soul. Divine Sword Body is a martial artist's second martial body. The fusion of Divine Sword Soul and Divine Sword Body is the swordsman's soul doppelganger. Moreover, this soul doppelganger inherits all the swordsman's abilities. It is almost no different from the original body. So powerful! Nye Tian could not help but gasp when he heard Fat Cat's explanation. His face was filled with shock. A soul doppelganger was like another him. It was really powerful. The soul doppelganger is a swordsman's last trump card. The fat cat's voice rang out again. We won't use it unless we have no other choice. If the avatar is injured or destroyed, it will directly affect the swordsman's sword Dao cultivation. If Old Man Jun's avatar is destroyed, his swordsmanship strength will directly return to the realm of swordsmanship and martial arts as one. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and his face stiffened. In that case, Jun Chujian was indeed taking a huge risk by releasing his soul avatar. For a swordsman, the realm of the sword Dao was more important than the strength of the martial Dao. This is soul-body doppelganger. The dead knight ancestors saw Jun Chujian suddenly split into two and screamed in shock. Brother Jun, let's attack together and break the formation. On the other side, the mysterious man let out a roar, and his aura instantly rose to the maximum. In order to break the formation of the three ancestors of the dead knight, three experts had to act at the same time. Now that Jun Chujian had released his soul avatar, it was equivalent to two experts. One mysterious man and two Jun Chujian were enough to break the formation. Okay. Jun Chujian agreed. His main body and the soul body doppelganger attacked at the same time. Boom. Boom. The two figures instantly separated and attacked from different directions. Two terrifying sword shadows rolled in the void and pressed down on the three ancestors of the dead knight. At the same time, the mysterious man also attacked. With a palm strike, golden light appeared, and heaven and earth became very dazzling. So powerful! The dead knight Imperial Guards saw this scene, and their faces changed. Their eyes were filled with extreme shock. Nie Tian frowned. The wings on his back flapped, and his figure retreated again. 6 terrifying experts clashed head-on. Everything within 100,000 meters would be completely obliterated. Bang, bang, bang. 3 extremely powerful attacks landed at the same time. Among the terrifying muffled sounds, waves of boundless wild waves surged and spread in all directions. Rumble, chi-chi-chi. Heaven and earth were shaking, and the space was filled with terrifying sounds, as if the end of the world was coming. The boundless wild waves turned into huge ripples and spread out in the void. Even the space seemed to be distorted. Countless dead knight Imperial Guards were hit by the wild waves and were directly sent flying. They wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, and it was a bloody scene. Nie Tian was 10,000 meters away from the center of the collision, and he vomited blood from the impact. Luckily, his martial body was strong. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would be severely injured. The terrifying wild waves in the sky only dissipated after a long time, and 6 figures appeared in the sky. The mysterious man's face could not be seen clearly, but judging from his aura, he should not be injured. The 2 Jun Chujian's mouths were bleeding, and it was obvious that they were injured. As for the 3 ancestors of the dead knight, they were even more miserable. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their faces were as pale as paper. Their bodies were swaying as if they were going to fall. Jun Chujian released his soul doppelganger, and together with the mysterious man, they attacked together and finally broke the 3 ancestors of the dead knight's formation, and the 3 of them were heavily injured. Many dead knight Imperial Guards saw this scene, and they all gasped. The shock in their hearts was perfectly written on their faces. The 3 ancestors of the dead knight, who were almost undefeatable, were actually defeated. All of this was too unbelievable. Nie Tian's expression was also shocked. Jun Chujian was indeed a powerful swordsman. His soul doppelganger was truly terrifying. To be honest, to be able to defeat the 3 ancestors of the dead knight, Jun Chujian was more important than the mysterious man. After all, he alone swung the power of 2 people. However, looking at Jun Chujian's current state, it was obvious that he was also heavily injured. I didn't expect you to be a light elf. At this moment, one of the 3 ancestors of the dead knight took a step forward with difficulty, and looked at the mysterious man with a gloomy gaze. From the exchange just now, He had already determined that the mysterious man was a light elf. This was something that the three ancestors of the dead knight never expected. Light elf. Tian suddenly froze. This was also out of his expectations. Of course, he knew that the light elf was of the yin-yang elf lineage, opposite of the dark night elves. At this moment, he finally understood why the mysterious man was afraid of the three ancestors of the dead knight. The dark night elves had a very strong counter to the light elf. Just like the two elements of light and darkness, they mutually reinforced and countered each other. However, under the situation of the same strength, the dark element was slightly stronger than the light element. You don't need to know what my identity is. The mysterious man's reaction was very cold, and he said in a deep voice, "Now, you can leave." The three ancestors of the dead knight were heavily injured, but the mysterious man did not plan to kill them. Although it looked like the three ancestors of the dead knight had no strength to resist, no one could tell what the state of the three was. Perhaps the three of them had an even more terrifying trump card. The three ancestors of the dead knight admit defeat this time. One of the ancestors said in a deep voice, and he practically squeezed out 2 words from the gaps of his teeth, "Leave." They were already heavily injured, and there was no meaning in continuing to stay here. It was better to leave directly. The 3 figures of the 3 ancestors moved in unison, and like 3 black rays, they disappeared in the sky. The dead knight Imperial Guards suffered heavy casualties. Those who were still alive hurriedly left with the 3 ancestors of the dead knight. The first strong enemy retreated. Tian looked in the direction that the 3 ancestors of the dead knight left, and he let out a long breath of turbid air as he murmured. However, at this moment, the mysterious man did not relax at all. Instead, he became even more nervous. Chapter 23:16. There are people in the void. Tian's eyes narrowed when he heard the mysterious man's words, and he almost screamed. As soon as the mysterious man finished speaking, the void shook slightly. Then 2 figures appeared. They were no strangers. They were Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fenyan. It's the 2 of them. Tian's heart sank when he saw the 2 of them. He had just sent off the 3 ancestors of the dead knight, and now 2 sacred swordsmen had come. They really did not give him a chance to catch his breath. Jun Chujian withdrew his soul doppelganger and frowned when he saw Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fenyan. He looked embarrassed. It seemed that the mysterious man was facing more enemies than he had expected. The 2 of you are quite gracious and did not attack suddenly. Should I thank you? The mysterious man glanced at the 2 sacred swordsmen and said with a faint smile. Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fenyan had been lurking in the dark and had been watching the battle without making a move. If the mysterious man and Jun Chujian had joined forces and attacked together when they were breaking the formation, regardless of whether they attacked the mysterious man or Jun Chujian, they would have severely injured or even killed the other party. Fortunately, they did not make a move. Your Excellency, you are looking down on us. We are both famous swordsmen. Why would we stab someone in the back? Anya Minjia said in a deep voice with a cold expression. Tian could not help but smile when he heard this. Regardless of whether Anya Minjia was his enemy or not, he was indeed a swordsman with a strong character. Anya Minjia disdained to stab someone in the back. Your Excellency, you are a light elf. Should I feel honored? Guangwu Fenyan said in a deep voice. He was also a light elf, and was of the same race as the mysterious man. A light elf. Suddenly, the mysterious man laughed and said jokingly, "If you did not remind me of this, I would have almost forgotten." Guangwu Fenyan frowned and said coldly, "Do you feel ashamed to be a light elf? Whether or not I feel ashamed is my business. It has nothing to do with anyone else." The mysterious man's tone suddenly turned cold as he said, "The 2 of you coming here is definitely not just to watch the battle. What do you want to do? Do it." "Sir," Guangwu Fenyan frowned and said, "I don't know why you want to protect Tian. But today you will not be able to protect him." If you let us take him away now, we can still live in harmony. If you insist on resisting, only death awaits you." His voice was calm, but the threat was extremely strong. "QL 11-inch so arrogant?" The mysterious man laughed and said faintly, "You too may have forgotten that you were once defeated by me." "Really?" Guangwu Fengyan laughed in a cold manner and said loudly, "Last time, when the two of us joined forces, you did indeed block it. But are you really that strong? I'm afraid that the injuries on your body have yet to fully recover, right?" Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and his expression changed instantly. It seemed that Guangwu Fengyan had already noticed that the mysterious man was injured. Although it seemed that the mysterious man had almost crushed Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan in the last battle. In fact, it was the mysterious man who had suffered a loss. Anya and Guangwu had indeed seriously injured him when they joined forces. "You've seen through me." The mysterious man laughed. He did not panic, but his laughter was very provocative. Anya Minjia frowned slightly and then said with a smile, "You're so calm. Do you think that Lord Jun Chujian is here?" "With all due respect, Lord Jun Chujian is indeed a terrifying swordsman. In a one-on-one fight, Brother Guangwu and I are no match for him. But he's also injured now. If you want him to fight, you'll only send him to his death." Upon hearing this, Jun Chujian frowned and looked gloomy and embarrassed. Although Anya Minjia's words were arrogant, it was the truth. In order to break the formation of the three ancestors of the dead knight, he had used his soul doppelganger. Both he and his soul doppelganger were injured. At this moment, he could not fight against either Anya Minjia or Guangwu Fengyan. The mysterious man's figure paused, and he could not help but look at Jun Chujian. "Brotherly, Jun Chujian's expression froze, and he could not say a word. "Brother Jun, you've tried your best. Leave the rest to me." The mysterious man smiled faintly and said calmly. Jun Chujian was stunned and looked even more embarrassed. Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were very strong when they joined forces. Even at his peak, he could not fight against them. The mysterious man was injured and could not fight against both of them at the same time. "Sir, we've already injured you once." Guangwu Fengyan sneered and said, "Now you're fighting against us with your injured body. You're too arrogant." "Sir, if you insist on fighting, I'm afraid the result will be your death," Anya Minjia said coldly. His eyes were sharp and stern. Nie Tian frowned. With the mysterious man's current condition, it was indeed too difficult for him to fight against both of them at the same time. He speculated that even if the mysterious man was at his peak, he might not be able to fight against both Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan. Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were both sword principle expert. One of them was darkness, while the other was light. The combination of yin and yang was too powerful. "Sword sages, you're wrong." At this moment, the mysterious man smiled faintly and said loudly, "I'm not going to fight the two of you right now. Instead, I'm fighting against the three of you. The three of us." Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were stunned and confused. In the next moment, they came to their senses and turned around to look at the void. "We've been discovered." Following that, a deep voice could be heard as a figure walked out from the void, appearing before everyone's eyes. When Nie Tian saw the face of the figure, his expression changed and he exclaimed, "Sikong Xuani." The person who had appeared was none other than Sikong Xuani. "Sikong Xuani, you also came." Anya Minjia's eyes darkened and he became vigilant. Last time, Sikong Xuani was willing to risk his life to protect Nie Tian. If he showed up this time to protect Nie Tian as well, the situation would be very complicated. As long as Sikong Xuani could hold off either Anya Minjia or Guangwu Fengyan, the other would not be a match for the mysterious man. "Don't be nervous." However, just at this moment, the mysterious man smiled and said, "The mysterious Heaven Sword Sage is not here to protect Nie Tian. He is here to capture Nie Tian, just like you guys." Hearing the mysterious man's words, Nie Tian's expression sank, and he felt extremely embarrassed. No wonder the mysterious man said he was going to fight against the three of them. Sikong Xuani was also here to capture Nie Tian. Sir, if you promise me that you'll let me take Nie Tian away, I can also help you deal with the two of them, Sikong Xuani said in a deep voice with a cold gaze. Humph, after hiding your foxtail for so long, you've finally revealed it. The mysterious man smiled and said, It looks like I shouldn't have saved you back then. It's too late to regret now. Sikong Xuani smiled and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Chapter 23:17. True Strength. Hearing the mysterious man's words, Nie Tian could not help but change his expression, looking extremely surprised. Could it be that the mysterious man was hiding his true strength? At this moment, the mysterious man's attitude was very calm, without the slightest hint of panic, as if he really had a powerful trump card. Anya Minjia and the others were also stunned. They stared at the mysterious man with a complicated look, obviously a little worried. If I don't defeat you, the person behind you won't show up, right? The mysterious man smiled faintly and suddenly moved to a place not far from Nie Tian. Nie Tian was immediately alarmed, as if the mysterious man wanted him to do something deliberately mystifying. Guangwu Fengyan sneered as he saw the mysterious man move. Let's attack together and kill him. Okay. Anya Minjia and Sikong Xuani nodded almost at the same time. Suddenly, their sword auras were released. For the first time, the three legendary swordsmen joined forces. Three soaring sword auras were like three pillars that stood between heaven and earth. So strong. Jun Chujian couldn't help but tremble when he saw this. He was extremely shocked. Even if he was at his peak, he would not be able to resist the three legendary swordsmen joining forces. Nie Tian frowned, not knowing what the mysterious man was planning. Lord Star Saint, let me borrow something from you. At this moment, the mysterious man suddenly spoke with a faint smile. What is it? Nie Tian went blank for a moment, confusion filling his face. He really didn't know what he could do to help the mysterious man at the moment. The sky-shrouding totem. The mysterious man uttered these 4 words in a deep voice, releasing an extremely strong murderous intent. The sky-shrouding totem? Nie Tian exclaimed. His eyes suddenly narrowed and he immediately understood. The mysterious man had said that the sky-shrouding totem was his original spirit. At this moment, he wanted to use the sky-shrouding totem to enhance his strength. Okay. Nie Tian nodded. Astral energy gushed out from his body, and a sky-covering totem appeared, transforming into a gigantic net that covered the sky, flying towards the mysterious man. The mysterious man smiled faintly. His figure moved, and as if he was wearing clothes, he wore the totem outside his body. At that instant, his aura skyrocketed. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of imposing aura surged into the sky like raging waves, rolling in the space. Nie Tian sensed that the mysterious man's aura had increased in an instant. His eyes flickered with a fiery light, and he was pleasantly surprised. What's going on? Jun Chujian was dumbfounded. He had no idea what was going on. Anya Minjia and the other 2 were stunned. But in the next moment, the 3 of them attacked at the same time without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. 3 sword intents were unleashed, like 3 giant dragons breaking through the abyss, roaring in the void. In an instant, the violent sword intents surged out, shaking the void as if it was going to be torn apart at any time. The next moment, the 3 sword shadows merged into one, forming a monstrous sword shadow that was tens of thousands of meters long. Buzz. The moment the sword shadow was formed, a shocking sword hum resounded in the sky, and a wave of power visible to the naked eye appeared in the void. The 3 legendary swordsmen worked together, but they had an indescribable tacit understanding. The 3 different sword intents fused together and burst out a terrifying power. The Anya Swordmaster, the Guangwu Swordmaster, and the mysterious Sky Sword Master exerted their power at the same time, and the terrifying sword shadow crashed down on the mysterious man like a collapsing mountain. Buzz! In an instant, the void was pulled taut by the power of the sword shadow, and a low groan could be heard. In the space, the tension spread, giving people a very strong sense of impact. Be careful! Nye Tian felt that something was wrong. He screamed, and his voice changed slightly. The mysterious man's figure leaped into the sky like a rainbow. He didn't show the slightest fear, but smiled faintly. He raised his palm, and the sky-shrouding totem came out of his body, turning into a giant starlight net, covering the sky and covering the earth. At this moment, Nye Tian felt the raw star stone in his body suddenly tremble, as if it was being forcibly extracted. His eyes narrowed as he frenziedly activated the origin formation, causing waves of astral energy to surge violently. At the same time, the starlight on the sky-shrouding totem became dazzling, as if all the star energy had become crazy, and its power had skyrocketed countless times. Nye Tian felt this, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. He had never thought that the star energy could be so terrifying. At this moment, he had a feeling that he had never really exerted the power of the star energy. Nye Tian, concentrate, feel this moment. At this moment, the mysterious man's voice sounded, like thunder, resounding in Nye Tian's ears. Nye Tian's eyes trembled, and he held his breath, concentrating all his attention on the star energy. High up in the sky, the totem that covered the sky poured down like a waterfall, wrapping around the huge sword shadow. Seeing this, Anya Minjia and the other two were shocked to the extreme. Nye Tian, look carefully, this is the power of the star energy. At this time, the mysterious man's voice sounded again, rolling mightily. He suddenly moved his palm, and his whole body's momentum exploded in an instant. He roared, "Break for me!" Boom! 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 The moment the thunderous sound fell, the sky-shrouding totem surged crazily, revolving around the huge sword shadow. Buzz! In an instant, the huge sword shadow was stirred by the sky-shrouding totem, and it gave out a shrill sword cry. Wow! Nye Tian was shocked by what he saw. The huge sword shadow was directly twisted by the sky-shrouding totem, and it turned over several times. Jun Chujian was also stunned, and no words could express his inner shock. He had no idea that the mysterious man had such a trick. Break! Then, the mysterious man's voice sounded again. Bang! As his voice fell, there was a loud bang. The huge sword shadow finally couldn't bear the power of the sky-shrouding totem, and it was broken into pieces, turning into endless sword essence, raging in the void. This shocking scene made Nye Tian freeze, as if he had been petrified. He couldn't describe the shock in his heart. This was really terrible. He couldn't imagine that the sky-shrouding totem could burst out such a terrible power in the hands of the mysterious man. The next moment, the sky-shrouding totem shouted coldly, "3 legendary swordsmen, this is the end." Then, the sky-shrouding totem turned into 3 sharp starlight, striking at Anya Minjia and the other 2 sword saints. The 3 sword saints hurriedly retreated, but under the impact of the huge momentum, they couldn't control their bodies. Oh no! The 3 sword saints' eyes trembled at the same time, and they screamed. The fear in their hearts was magnified infinitely through their eyes. The starlight was as sharp as the wind and as fast as lightning. It was extremely swift and fierce. QL 11. Chapter 23:18. High up in the sky, 3 streaks of sharp starlight whistled as they attacked. At that moment, Anya Minjia and the other 2 sensed death approaching. Nye Tian and Jun Chujian were completely dumbfounded. They had thought that the mysterious man had no chance of winning against the 3 legendary warriors. However, the scene in front of them shocked them to the extreme. With the power of the shrouding sky totem, the mysterious man had crushed the 3 legendary warriors. The 3 rays of starlight were sharp and murderous. However, at the critical moment of life and death, a sudden change took place. Boom! High up in the sky, a gigantic palm shadow descended like a gigantic mountain wall. Bang! 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 The three rays of starlight collided with the palm shadow and broke into pieces. The sudden scene stunned Nie Tian and Jun Chujian once again. Their eyes were filled with shock and horror. The palm shadow high up in the sky rolled endlessly, mighty and mighty. The palm shadow was like a giant standing in the sky. It was as heavy as a mountain and as vast as the sea. That kind of boundless energy was on the verge of bursting out. It was terrifying to the extreme, causing people to feel helpless and despair. This kind of power was simply too terrifying. It was simply impossible to contend against. Sir! Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengnian's expressions suddenly changed, beads of sweat oozing out of their foreheads, and they exclaimed in horror at the same time. Sikong Xuani's eyes were trembling and he was still in a state of shock after escaping death. He had no idea who the person who had saved him was. The person behind this has finally appeared. The mysterious man's reaction was extremely calm as he spoke indifferently. QL11. It was as if he had expected this moment. At that moment, a blurry figure was standing in the sky. The figure was very strange. He was standing there, but he seemed to be in another space. No one could see his face clearly. Sir, I'm sorry. Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengnian's faces darkened when they saw the figure. They bowed deeply and did not dare to look at the figure again, as if they were afraid of touching something taboo. When Nie Tian saw Anya and Minjia's actions, he immediately reacted. His expression became gloomy and he looked extremely embarrassed. Obviously, this figure was the one behind Anya Minjia. Judging from his earlier attack, his strength could be said to be unfathomable. Nie Tian vaguely felt that even the heavenly evil monarch might not be comparable to this person. The figure didn't even look at Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengnian. Instead, he shifted his gaze to the mysterious man and said lightly, "You don't seem surprised by my appearance. You will definitely appear. What's there to be surprised about?" The mysterious man replied with a faint smile. "Looks like your attack just now wasn't to kill me, but to force me to show myself, right?" The figure spoke calmly. His voice was icy cold and didn't contain any emotion. "Sort of." The mysterious man laughed and said, "If I can force you to show yourself and kill these three at the same time, that would be the best." "Li Guang Tongchen, since when did you learn to joke around?" Suddenly, the figure took a step forward and revealed a pair of eerily cold eyes that emitted a piercingly cold light. He had yelled out a name, Li Guang Tongchen. Li Guang Tongchen. When Nie Tian heard this name, he squinted his eyes. Evidently, this was the mysterious man's name. In the past, Jun Chujian had once addressed this mysterious man as brotherly. Li Guang Tongchen. At this moment, Guangwu Fengnian was stunned before he exclaimed out. Looking at the mysterious man with a weird gaze, he exclaimed, You're actually Li Guang Tongchen, this name is unfamiliar to me." The mysterious man bitterly smiled as he continued, "It's so unfamiliar to me that I nearly forgot that it's my name." The mysterious man's name was Li Guang Tongchen. But this name had been forgotten for a long time, to the point that he couldn't recall it anymore. Li Guang Tongchen, the same as the light and the same as the dust. The figure spoke again. "I didn't expect that the former Light Emperor would become like this." You're really the Light Emperor?" Guangwu Fengnian asked again. He was shocked to the extreme. Li Guangtongchen let out a calm smile without saying a word. His body shuddered as the layer of murkiness surrounding him disappeared, revealing his true appearance. This. Nie Tian turned to look at Li Guang and Tongchen. The latter's appearance made him suck in a breath of cold air and freeze on the spot. Li Guang Tongchen looked very young. His appearance was similar to that of an ordinary 20-year-old man. His entire body was covered with a layer of gentle white light, which made him look solemn and holy. His appearance was exquisite to the extreme. Most women would be envious of such an appearance. No matter how one looked at him, he looked like an extremely handsome young man. Nie Tian already knew that Li Guang Tongchen was a light elf. He also knew that the elves had a lifespan that was close to immortality. However, he couldn't believe that Li Guang Tongchen was so young. If Nie Tian had known that Li Guang Tongchen was so young, he wouldn't have called him senior. Brother Li Yu. Jun Chujian was also stunned when he saw Li Guang Tongchen's appearance. His mouth was wide open, but he couldn't make a sound. He had known Li Guang Tongchen for a long time, but this was the first time he had seen the latter's true appearance. He was just as shocked as Nie Tian. "It's really the Light Emperor!" Guangwu Fengnian exclaimed. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Guangwu Fengnian, why don't you kneel when you see your emperor?" Li Guang Tongchen smiled and asked Guangwu Fengnian proudly. Guangwu Fengnian was stunned, then his body trembled. He actually kneeled down and said in a trembling voice, "Light Elf, Guangwu Fengnian, the left emissary of light, greets the Emperor." "Guangwu Fengnian, why are you trembling?" Li Guang Tongchen smiled faintly and said in a loud voice, "Is seeing the first Emperor of the Light Elf race making you nervous?" "I lost my composure. Please forgive me, Your Majesty." Guangwu Fengnian's voice trembled even more. Every word he said echoed in the air. He had never dreamed that he would be able to see the great people of the Light Elf race. Li Guang Tongchen, the first emperor of the Light Elf race, was known as the Light Emperor. He was the most legendary person of the Light Elf race. Even though the Light Elf race had produced countless emperors, the position of the Light Emperor could never be replaced. Every Light Elf regarded the Emperor of Light as a supreme existence. Guangwu Fengnian had never thought that he would meet the legendary Light Emperor. Moreover, he had fought with the Light Emperor and almost died at his hands. He even regretted not dying just now. To him, to be able to die in the hands of the Light Emperor was a supreme honor. "Guangwu Fengnian, stand up." At that instant a loud voice was heard. It was none other than the figure from before. Chapter 23:19. The figure looked coldly at Guangwu Fengnian. Although his face could not be seen clearly, the cold and gloomy aura emanating from his body was already filling the air, making everyone shudder. Guangwu Fengnian was his subordinate, but he was now kneeling in front of his opponent. This made him inexplicably angry. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed as he watched this scene from afar. He had not expected Li Guang Tongchen to have such a high status among the Light Fairies. He was the first emperor of the Light Fairies. It was no wonder that Guangwu Fengnian had behaved so strangely after learning of Li Guang Tongchen's identity. Nie Tian was extremely shocked. He stared at Li Guang Tongchen in horror. If Li Guang Tongchen was the first emperor of the Light Fairies, how old would he be? The Light Fairies had lived for so many years that their first emperor must have been from a very long time ago. However, Li Guang Tongchen looked so young. Compared to Guangwu Fengnian, who was also a Light Fairy, Li Guang Tongchen seemed like a junior. High up in the sky, Guangwu Fengnian could not help but tremble slightly when he heard the figure's voice. But he did not stand up. Instead, he looked up at Li Guang Tongchen. "Someone from the Ying clan, do you think that a Light Elf should not kneel to his emperor?" Li Guang Tongchen smiled faintly as he looked at the figure with his starry eyes and said calmly, The figure froze for a moment, then frowned in surprise. "You know who I am? If you can investigate me, why can't I investigate you?" Li Guang Tongchen smiled faintly. "If my investigation is correct, you should be from the Juing Shrine, right?" The figure froze again and could not help but cry out in surprise. His reaction undoubtedly proved Li Guang Tongchen's words. He was from the Juing Shrine. Juing Shrine. Nie Tian's expression changed when he heard these words. His eyes trembled uncontrollably. He was no stranger to this organization. Even when he was still in the plain world, he already knew about the existence of this organization. The Juing Temple was the mysterious organization that had threatened the Dragon Rebel clan and destroyed the Divine Dragon clan and the other clans. Nie Tian had been searching for the whereabouts of the Vanishing Shadow Temple. He had never imagined that he would meet the first person from the Vanishing Shadow Temple in the abandoned land. He had seen the avatars of the Juing Shrine members before, but they had all been very weak. Even if it was a godly state expert, his soul avatar would be greatly weakened when he traveled across plains. He had even seen people who seemed to be connected to the Juing Shrine. QL11, but those people weren't really from the Juing Shrine. The person in front of him was a true powerhouse from Juing Temple. Only now did he truly understand how terrifying the Juing Shrine was. He did not know what the status of the expert in front of him was in the Juing Shrine. However, his strength was absolutely terrifying. Nie Tian doubted whether Li Guang and Tong Chen were a match for the person in front of him. In any case, he felt that this expert from the Juing Shrine wasn't any weaker than the heavenly evil monarch. He was afraid that Li Guang and Tong Chen wouldn't be able to contend with this person just by relying on the sky shrouding totem. However, Li Guang and Tong Chen's attitude was very indifferent, as if they had something else to rely on. Just what kind of organization was the Juing Shrine? That was what Nie Tian was most concerned about at the moment. Both Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were stunned. It seemed that even they didn't know what the Juing Shrine was. They only knew that the person in front of them was surnamed Ying, and nothing else. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, the person from the Juing Divine Palace burst out laughing and said loudly, Li Guang Tongchen, you are indeed worthy of being an emperor. You see much further than ordinary people. In the entire abandoned land, there are only 5 people who know the name Juing. You are one of them. It looks like my trip here was very necessary. As he spoke, a cold, killing intent emanated from his body. He was like a sharp blade that could tear through anything. In that instant, the space around him trembled as if it was about to tear apart. Such a powerful aura was truly terrifying. You want to kill me? Li Guang faintly smiled. In clan, are you sure that you can kill me with your strength? The person from the Ying clan narrowed his eyes. Li Guang, don't brag. We're both pseudo-sacred realm, but you've exhausted most of your energy. Even if you can use the sky shrouding totem, how much star energy does that brat have left? As he spoke, the person from the Ying clan looked at Nie Tian and said in a cold tone, I really don't understand why the Origin Star Stone would choose a piece of trash. Even now, he still doesn't know what the true power of the stars is. He has no understanding of star energy, and he can't unleash the true power of the stars. The cold voice fell into Nie Tian's ears, silencing him for a moment. Indeed, the current him had yet to comprehend the power of the stars. The same sky shrouding totem could at most be used as a shield in his hands. However, in the hands of Li Guang Tongchen, it could crush 3 legendary battle pet warriors. The disparity between them was simply too great. Are you trying to break his confidence? Li Guang Tongchen laughed and said, No matter what, he's the one chosen by the Origin Star Stone. No one can deny this. Plus, he's only been in possession of the Origin Star Stone for a short period of time. It's already very impressive that he's able to come this far. I believe that the Origin Star Stone didn't choose the wrong person. Nie Tian's gaze froze when he heard Li Guang Tongchen's words. He immediately understood the latter's good intentions. Li Guang Tongchen was afraid that Nie Tian would be affected by the words of the person from the Ying clan. Of course, what he said was the truth. Nie Tian had not been in possession of the Origin Star Stone for a long time. At least, compared to the lifespan of a godly state martialist, it was simply not worth mentioning. Moreover, no one knew that the Origin Star Stone contained 9 layers of stars that needed to be opened 1 layer at a time. Even if Nie Tian had a heaven-defying comprehension ability, he would not be able to understand star energy before the 9 layers of stars were completely opened. The reason why Li Guang Tongchen had such a strong understanding of star energy was because the sky-shrouding totem was his original spirit. Moreover, it took him 1,000,000 years to comprehend the power of the stars. Bulsh *T. The person from the Ying clan roared, "The origin star stone is a stone of the sacred world. This kind of treasure should naturally belong to the strong. It's an insult to the origin star stone to be in the hands of a weakling." "Is that so?" As soon as he finished speaking, Nie Tian sneered and said, "You think that you're strong and that I'm weak, right?" Chapter 23:20. Nie Tian stared at the Ying clan member without any fear or evasion. "I admit that the current me isn't as strong as you," Nie Tian said faintly, "but you aren't a natural-born elite. There aren't any natural-born elites in this world. Every elite has to take one step at a time. You have more time, so you've walked further than me. But the current you has already reached your end. It's hard for you to walk any further. As for me, I've just started. I'm destined to walk further than you because my end is something you can't imagine." The calm voice represented the strongest determination in his heart. The people of the Ying clan could feel the unswerving determination in Nie Tian's eyes, and couldn't help but be stunned. He had never imagined that an ant-like existence in his eyes could actually say such a thing. To be able to say such words in front of an elite that was far stronger than him, only someone with great determination could do it. Even if the Ying clan member didn't want to admit it, he was still shocked. At this moment, he had a firm thought. If he couldn't bring Nie Tian away today, then he would kill him. This kid's heart of martial arts is terrifying. The Ying clan member's eyes trembled coldly as he said coldly, "We can't let him live." The heart of the martial Tao that Nie Tian displayed at this moment was the most tenacious one he had ever seen. With such a terrifying heart of martial arts, it was no wonder that he was recognized by the raw star stone. With the raw star stone and such a terrifying heart of martial arts, no one could imagine where Nie Tian's end would be. The Ying clan member felt that if they couldn't keep Nie Tian alive today, he would definitely become a huge threat in the future. "Guangwu Fengyan, are you still not going to stand up?" At this moment, the Ying clan member suddenly looked at Guangwu Fengyan, who was still kneeling on the ground, and shouted cold. QL11 Guangwu Fengyan's expression stiffened. He couldn't help but look at Li Guang Tongchen, but he still didn't stand up. "Stop roaring. Without my permission, the year of the Guangwu Phoenix will not stand up." Li Guangchen faintly smiled and said, "Guangwu Fengyan, I will give you a chance to fight alongside me. Are you willing?" Guangwu Fengyan was stunned for a moment before he came to an understanding. His eyes trembled with a burning gaze as he said in a trembling voice, "This subordinate is willing." "Guangwu Fengyan, you!" The people from the Ying family roared, their bodies trembling. He hadn't expected that the name of the Light Emperor would have such a great deterrent effect on the Light Elves. Even though the Light Emperor had disappeared for millions of years, he still had absolute control and deterrence over the Light Elves when he reappeared. "Very good." Li Guangchen faintly smiled and said, "Guangwu Fengyan, you can stand up now." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Guangwu Fengyan replied in a clear voice. He then stood up and stared at the Ying clan with a gloomy gaze. "My apologies, Lord. Between you and the Light Emperor, Guangwu Fengyan can only choose my emperor." "You're courting death." The people from the Ying clan roared angrily. The aura in his body instantly rose to the extreme. Every word he said was filled with killing intent. His anger had reached a terrifying peak. How could he allow his subordinates to betray him and pledge loyalty to his enemy in front of him? "Guangwu Fengyan, go and deal with your old friend. Leave your lord to me." Li Guangchen faintly smiled, then his body trembled. In the next moment, a white light surged outside his body and circulated in the void like a ripple. A mysterious aura flowed and released circles of dazzling brilliance in the air. It was dazzling and magnificent. "This is..." Seeing this, Guangwu Fengyan was stunned. His eyes trembled violently as he said 4 words. Light in the dust. It's really light in the dust. I didn't expect the first emperor of the Light Elves to be so powerful. Almost at the same time, Anya Minjia's voice rang out. He was extremely shocked. Light in the dust, light in the dust, light in the dust, the supreme legend of the Light Elves. According to the legend, light in the dust was an extremely mysterious barrier. It could comprehend the power of heaven and earth, and turn it into its own. However, among the Light Elves, light in the dust had always been a kind of legend. According to the legend, the first emperor of the Light Elves, the Light Emperor, could release light in the dust. Guangwu Fengyan and Anya Minjia were both Light Elves and Dark Elves, so they had heard of the legend of light in the dust. At this moment, they were able to witness the legendary light in the dust with their own eyes. One could imagine how shocked they were. Nie Tian could feel the halo of light circulating in the sky from afar. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Although he didn't know the legend of light in the dust, he could feel that the mysterious aura within the halo was a very mysterious barrier. Li Guangchen was using the power of the barrier to merge with the power of heaven and earth and gather it for his own use. At this moment, Nie Tian realized that he had underestimated Li Guangchen. The panic that Li Guang and Tong Chen had shown earlier was just an act. His goal was to lure and force the person behind Anya Minjia to show himself. In fact, when he used the heaven-shrouding totem earlier, Li Guangchen was only testing his strength. At this moment, releasing light blending with dust was his true strength. The supreme legend of the Light Elves, light in the dust. The person from the Ying family was slightly startled. Then, he said coldly, I would like to see exactly how powerful light in the dust is. Don't worry, you won't be disappointed. Li Guangchen faintly smiled. His body moved and the halo of light around him circulated in the air. Instantly, the power of heaven and earth was forcefully changed. A vortex seemed to appear in the air, and Li Guangchen was in the center of the vortex. The power of heaven and earth was collapsing towards Li Guangchen. Slowly, it transformed into power and gathered on his body. Anya Minjia, attack! The person from the Ying family roared. His body moved and he directly struck out with his palm. The violent power behind him transformed into an endless pressure that blasted towards Li Guangchen. Anya Minjia stood at the side with his long sword in the air. He was about to attack. But at this moment, he felt a sword force whistling towards him. Brother Guangwu Yu! Anya Minjia suddenly turned around and couldn't help but scream when he saw that the person who attacked was Guangwu Fengyan. He didn't expect that Guangwu Fengyan would actually attack him. I, Guangwu Fengyan, will not allow anyone to hurt the Light Emperor, Guangwu Fengyan shouted fiercely. Seeing this, Anya Minjia had no choice but to stand up and fight. On the other side, Sikong Xuanyi watched quietly and didn't make a move. He knew that Jun Chujian was watching him. Even though Jun Chujian was injured, he was still a strong threat to Sikong Xuanyi. Fleeting years of light, one strike. Li Guangchen's voice resounded in the air. He raised his arm and slammed out with his palm. Instantly, the heavens and earth shook and the boundless light turned into boundless killing intent. Chapter 23-21. Boom! Crack! The mighty palm shook the heavens and the earth, and a spatial crack appeared in the void. A violent space-time storm appeared in an instant, wreaking havoc in the space, as if it was going to devour everything. Rumble! Crack! 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 In the next moment, the two palm shadows collided with each other. After a violent explosion, the void directly exploded. Countless glaring spatial cracks appeared in the sky, like scars in the sky. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! 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 Then, the space-time storm surged out like a violent dragon, devouring everything in its path. One of the palm shadows instantly collapsed and turned into endless power, which was devoured by the space-time storm. The spatial crack in the sky kept expanding, and the entire sky seemed to be collapsing. Oh no! Anya Minjia and the others stopped fighting when they saw this, and their faces were filled with horror. If the spatial crack continued to expand, the fragment of the sacred world that they were in would not be able to withstand it. However, what happened next was the strangest scene. The space-time storm rushed towards the palm shadow of light, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea, and was actually devoured by the palm shadow of light. Transform the power of heaven and earth, devour the void, Li Guangtongchen said loudly, and the palm shadow of light swept across the sky, instantly smoothing out the spatial crack. This! Anya Minjia and the others gasped in horror, and were speechless. Li Guangtongchen was indeed terrifying, and it could even smooth out the spatial crack. Nie Tian watched from afar, and his whole body stiffened. A battle of this level was beyond his imagination. Whether it was Li Guangtongchen or the people from the Ying family, the power released by the two of them was beyond Nie Tian's comprehension. Only after a long while did Nie Tian exclaim inwardly with a shocked expression, "A false saint expert is so terrifying. A pseudo-saint powerhouse was already so terrifying, and a real sage's power was simply unimaginable." QL11 Fortunately, these pseudo-saint powerhouses only appeared in the abandoned land. If they were in a place like the 9 major realms, they could easily destroy an entire realm with a wave of their hand. Compared to these powerhouses, Nie Tian was simply too weak to look at. Bang! At this moment, a muffled sound suddenly rang out from the sky. The Ying clan member was sent flying by a palm strike. His figure streaked across the sky, and the dark aura around him slowly dissipated, revealing his true appearance. Nie Tian's gaze trembled as he stared at the Ying clan. When he saw the latter's face clearly, his expression froze. This face looked very strange. It was 70% human and 30% wolf. That's right, wolves. Especially that pair of eyes, which emitted a piercing cold light, like a venomous wolf in the dark night. Both Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan were stunned when they saw the faces of the Ying clan. They clearly didn't expect that the person they had been loyal to would be like this. "I didn't expect you to be." Li Guangtongchen wasn't too surprised by the appearance of the Ying family's member. Instead, his eyes were filled with shock. Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. The Ying clan member steadied himself and said his name with a twitch of his lips. Shadowmoon 3 stars Greedy Wolf star. Li Guangtongchen's eyes trembled as he said in a deep voice. He wasn't unfamiliar with the name Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. Judging from his reaction, it seemed very familiar, extremely familiar. How is this possible? Li Guangtongchen looked at the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf with trembling eyes. Li Guangtongchen, are you surprised that I'm still alive? The Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf sneered and asked. I killed you with my own hands. How can you still be alive? Li Guangtongchen suddenly raised his head and looked at the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf in shock. He did know the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf, and there was a life-and-death grudge between them. When Li Guangtongchen was still the Emperor of Light, he had a life-and-death duel with the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. He was very sure that he had killed the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf with his own hands. However, the person in front of him was indeed the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. Could it be that there was really someone in this world who could come back to life? No wonder the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf knew Li Guangtongchen. They were old enemies. How could the Greedy Wolf's life be so easily extinguished? The Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf sneered, his sinister face filled with extreme mockery. He loudly said, Li Guangtongchen, so many years have passed. Not only has your light integration not grown stronger, but it has also grown weaker. Since my identity has been exposed, it's time for you to see the true Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. As his arrogant voice fell, boundless dark energy surged around the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf. Like dark runes, it surged between heaven and earth and condensed into the shadow of a greedy wolf. This aura. Nie Tian couldn't help but be shocked when he sensed the aura around the Shadowmoon Greedy Wolf from afar. He felt that this aura was inexplicably familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Soul-splitting chi. He immediately recalled and exclaimed in his heart. The dark energy around the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was very similar to the soul-splitting chi of the soul-splitting wolf that Nie Tian had encountered in the Forbidden Land of Wind and Cloud. He still remembered that the battle with the soul-splitting wolf in the Forbidden Land of Wind and Cloud had been one of the few bloody battles he had experienced. If it hadn't been for the help of the Dragon Rebel tribe, he might have died at the hands of the soul-splitting wolf. According to the Dragon Rebel tribe, the soul-splitting wolf had been created by the Juying Temple to hunt down the Dragon Rebel tribe. At this moment, feeling the aura around the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, it seemed that everything had been confirmed. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's aura was very similar to the soul-splitting chi of the soul-splitting wolf, but there was also a big difference. It seemed that the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's aura was even more terrifying than the soul-splitting chi. Li Guang Tongqin, I lost to you back then. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's voice rang out. But this time, you won't be as lucky as before. Li Guang Tongqin frowned, his expression extremely ugly. His current strength hadn't increased compared to when he had been the Light Emperor. In fact, it had decreased significantly. On the other hand, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf had become even more terrifying. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf had been beaten back just now because he hadn't revealed his true strength. At this moment, he was going to fight with all his might. Li Guang Tongqin, you took my life back then. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's aura surged as he shouted coldly, now it's time for you to pay with your blood. With a low roar, the Greedy Wolf's shadow around the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf swelled to its limit. Then, it left his body and turned into a huge dark wolf. It pounced ferociously towards Li Guang Tongqin. Boom! Crack, crack, crack! In an instant, the void trembled, and wherever the dark Shadow Greedy Wolf passed, a glaring and long spatial crack would appear in the air. This dark Shadow Greedy Wolf actually tore the void apart with its aura alone. Chapter 23-22. So terrifying. Nie Tian looked up at the scene in the sky, and his expression was one of extreme shock. Even his voice was stiff. At that moment, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's aura was much stronger than Li Guang Tongqin's. Anya Minjia and the others also had stiff expressions. They couldn't believe their eyes. They finally understood how small the Forsaken Land they had seen before was. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that there was such a terrifying expert in the Land of the Abandoned. Shield of Light. High up in the sky, Li Guang Tongqin reacted instantly. The halo around his body instantly condensed into a shield of light outside his body. Rumble! In the next moment, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's huge figure descended like a mountain and heavily bombarded the shield of light. Amidst the loud rumble, endless tearing sounds rang out. The shield of light collapsed inch by inch, turning into flowing light and dissipating. Li Guang Tongqin's figure was directly sent flying, drawing a bloody trail in the air. The sudden scene caused everyone's eyes to freeze, and they were stunned on the spot. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's strength was so strong. Even the Fairy Clan's supreme legend, Guang Tongqin, was so fragile in front of the Greedy Wolf's tribulation. Emperor! Guang Wufengyan was the first to react and directly shouted. Li Guang Tongqin was directly hit and was directly sent flying. This was a scene that no one had expected. Guang Tongqin, the supreme legend of the Fairy Clan of Light. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's figure towered in the sky, his eyes cold and murderous. What a mess! At that moment, Li Guang Tongqin's figure stabilized. His whole body was dripping with blood, and his breath was very weak. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's tribulation had directly injured him. Damn it! Li Guang Tongqin's eyes slightly narrowed, his pale face extremely embarrassed. His strength was still too weak. This was not because Guang Tongqin was too weak, but because of his own body. His sky-covering spirit totem was imprisoned in the raw star stone, which was the reason why his strength was reduced. But now, He couldn't take back the sky-covering spirit totem because Nye Tian had not completely opened the ninefold galaxy. The ninth layer of the galaxy was still closed, which meant that the origin star stone hadn't been fully activated yet. The real starting point of the origin star stone was when the ninth star appeared. Light Emperor, are you alright? Guangwu Fengyan's figure flickered as he appeared beside Li Guang Tongchen and asked anxiously. Li Guangchen glanced at Guangwu Fengyan and bitterly smiled. Guangwu Fengyan, your king is so weak, are you still willing to follow? Of course. Guangwu Fengyan replied in a loud voice. No matter what the Light Emperor looks like, in my heart, he will always be the Light Elf race's supreme being. Guangwu Fengyan, you chose the wrong person. Before he could finish, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf sneered and said in a deep voice, following a useless king will only ruin your life. I can give you a chance. As long as you kill Li Guang Tongchen with your own hands, I will forgive your betrayal. How about it? The greedy eyes of the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf flickered slightly, looking extremely eerie and cold. Was there anything more delightful than watching the former Light Emperor die at the hands of his own people? Impossible. However, he was rejected by Guangwu Fengyan as soon as he finished his words. The latter said in a loud voice, I, Guangwu Fengyan, am a Light Elf. I will use my life to protect the dignity of the Light Emperor. The Light Emperor was the supreme being of the Light Elf race. He was the legend of the Light Elves, and no one was allowed to blaspheme him. Is that so? The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes darkened, his expression cold and murderous. Guangwu Fengyan, I always thought that you were a smart person. But now you have made a foolish choice. You will pay the price in blood for your choice. It is the glory of Guangwu Fengyan to die for the Emperor. Guangwu Fengyan was not afraid at all. He took a step forward, his sword aura surging like the sea. He was ready to fight to the death. Fool! The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf sneered, then took a step forward. Dark energy surged around him, and the Greedy Wolf's shadow appeared again. Sir, don't. Anya Minjia's expression changed when he saw this. He did not expect that the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf would really kill Guangwu Fengyan. Anya Minjia, say one more word and you will die with Guangwu Fengyan. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's voice was murderous, his eyes cold and murderous. Anya Minjia's eyes trembled, his expression extremely ugly. He could feel that the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's words were not just a simple threat. If he said one more word, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf would really kill him as well. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was indeed ruthless. He even wanted to kill his former subordinate. Guangwu Fengyan, this is your last chance. Kill Li Guangchen for me. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf roared, his murderous intent reaching its peak. Don't even think about it. Guangwu Fengyan roared and refused. You're courting death. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes darkened and he thrust his palm forward. The Greedy Wolf's tribulation appeared again. The huge Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf pounced at Guangwu Fengyan like a primordial beast. Guangwu Fengyan's gaze sharpened. His long sword soared into the sky and his sword aura soared into the sky. The sword aura was as vast as the sea. However, it was too weak in front of the Greedy Wolf's tribulation. If the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf swept past, Guangwu Fengyan would definitely die. Brother Guangwu. At this moment of life and death, Anya Minjia's voice suddenly rang out. He swung his sword in midair. Buzz. The light sword shadow and the darkness sword shadow fused instantly, producing a shocking sword cry. In the next instant, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf and the light and darkness swords collided, causing the void to tremble and the heavens to wail. Amidst the boundless shockwaves, Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan's figures were sent flying. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was too strong. Even the combined attack of the two sacred swordsmen could not withstand it. After a while, the shock waves and the void dissipated, revealing two blood-colored figures. They were Anya Minjia and Guangwu Fengyan. QL11. Although the two's combined attack failed to stop the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, They managed to save their lives. However, they were severely injured and their auras were weaker than Li Guang and Tongchen. Anya Minjia, even you betrayed me. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's figure appeared and glared at the two blood-colored figures. He roared furiously, "Without me, how could the two of you have made it this far?" He had never expected that even Anya Minjia would betray him. "Sir, we are indeed indebted to you. However, we have already repaid what we owed you." Anya Minjia's injuries were relatively light. He said with burning eyes, "From now on, we have nothing to do with you." "Good. Well said." The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf roared furiously, "Since you too have betrayed your master, you deserve to die." Chapter 23:23. Nie Tian looked at the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf from a distance of 100,000 meters away. He could actually feel the strong killing intent coming from the latter. That kind of violent, boundless killing intent was as bloody as blood, and it was terrifying. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was furious. He would kill everyone here. Li Guang Tongchen, Guangwu Fengyan, Anya Minjia, and even Jun Chujian did not have the strength to fight. At that moment, no one could stop the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf. Nie Tian also knew that the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf wanted the Origin Star Stone in his body. Nie Tian felt powerless in the face of this situation. He was too weak, and there was nothing he could do. Ninth Tier Chaos Beast. A thought flashed through his mind in an instant. But in the next moment, he dispelled this thought. Even if he used the 9th Tier Chaos Beast, he would not be a match for the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf. The latter was too strong, and it was difficult to fight. "Today, all of you will die." The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf roared and took a step forward. Boundless killing intent surged like a tide towards Li Guang Tongchen and the others. At that moment, Li Guang Tongchen did not look the least bit afraid. Instead, he had a faint smile on his face. His smile was very strange and relaxed, as if he had been waiting for someone. Boom! Just as the boundless killing intent spread over, the void suddenly shook. Then, an invisible barrier blocked the spread of the killing intent. Li Guang Tongchen was stunned for a moment. Then, his expression changed. He looked at the void and roared, "Who's there? Get out here!" As soon as he finished speaking, 3 figures walked out of the void and stepped out. The person in the lead was an old woman. Her body was hunched over, and her face was covered in layers of wrinkles. She looked like a piece of withered tree bark, rough and old. This old woman's face was like a candle in the wind, and she looked like she was going to die at any moment. However, she was wearing a bright red dress, and her lips were painted with bright red lipstick. She even had blush on her cheek. This kind of appearance, coupled with this kind of attire, made people feel strange and uncomfortable. QL11 Inchyor. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes widened when he saw the old woman in the red dress. He exclaimed in surprise, and fear appeared on his face. "Old woman, you're finally here." Li Guang Tongchen looked at the old woman, and the corners of his mouth twitched as he let out a long sigh of relief. At this moment, Nie Tian was also staring at the old woman in shock. What surprised him was not the old woman's appearance and attire, but the 2 figures beside her. 2 young girls stood beside the old woman in the red dress. They were Rui Qianyu and Nieyuro. Nie Tian's eyes trembled. He immediately thought of something and reacted. Previously, Li Guang Tongchen had told him that he had found a teacher for Rui Qianyu and Nieyuro, who was a peak expert in the Forsaken Land. From the looks of it, Rui Qianyu and Nieyuro's teacher was this old lady in red. Although this old lady in the red dress was a bit strange, her strength was definitely very strong. Otherwise, Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf wouldn't be afraid. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, the Greedy Wolf star of the Ying family. At this time, the old lady in the red dress spoke and said with a light smile, "Rumor has it that you died a long time ago. I didn't expect you to still be alive. What a surprise." Her voice was very pleasing to the ear. She didn't sound like an old person at all. Instead, she sounded like a young woman in her 30s, full of magnetism and temptation. Your thousand illusion granny. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was stunned for a few seconds before he finally reacted and said in shock, "You're not too stupid to know my name." Thousand Illusion Granny smiled and said, "Since you know I'm here, why aren't you scramming?" Nye Tian heard Thousand Illusion Granny's voice from afar and saw the latter's appearance. He felt very uncomfortable. It turned out that these peak experts were all so strange. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Thousand Illusion Granny to be so overbearing. "Thousand Illusion Granny, why are you interfering in this matter?" After thinking for a moment, Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf forced himself to calm down and asked in a deep voice. He knew that Thousand Illusion Granny was one of the peak experts in the abandoned land. But this person had always been in a state of seclusion. Why would she suddenly appear? "It's for my two good disciples." Thousand Illusion Granny smiled faintly. Her eyes immediately locked onto Nye Tian and said without the slightest hesitation, "Qianye, is this kid the person you were talking about?" "Yes, he is Nye Tian." Rui Qianyu nodded slightly and replied respectfully, "His looks are very ordinary." Thousand Illusion Granny frowned and directly said to Rui Qianyu, "Girl, you're so talented and beautiful. It's just that your eyesight is a little lacking. How did you fall for this kid?" "Teacher, Brother Nye Tian is very powerful. His talent is even more powerful than Sister Qianye." Nyeyuro couldn't bear to listen anymore and spoke up for Nye Tian. "Is that so?" Thousand Illusion Granny smiled noncommittally. Her gaze swept over Nye Tian and she said, "In my opinion, this kid is just lucky to have been acknowledged by the Primal Star Stone. Without the Primal Star Stone, he's just an ordinary kid." Nye Tian could only smile bitterly as he listened to Thousand Illusion Granny's words. No matter what, Thousand Illusion Granny was here to help him. It wasn't a big deal for her to say a few words. Moreover, Thousand Illusion Granny's attitude showed that she was very satisfied with Rui Qianyu and Nyeyuro. Knowing this, Nye Tian felt a lot more at ease. He had been worried that Li Guangchen would find an unreliable teacher for Rui Qianyu and Nyeyuro. Now it seemed that this teacher was quite good. It was just that his clothes were a little strange. "Thousand Illusion Granny, since you know that this kid has the Primal Star Stone," Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf spoke again. At this time, Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf spoke again. He bowed slightly and said, "Then you should understand what he means to the Juying Shrine. Thousand Illusion Granny, please give the Ying family some face and let me take him away." "Take him away?" Thousand Illusion Granny laughed. "Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, are you joking? Of my two disciples, one is this kid's wife and the other is his sister. If I let you take him away, do you think my two disciples will agree?" His voice was calm and full of mockery. "Thousand Illusion Granny, so you insist on being enemies with the Ying family?" Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's face darkened as he spoke coldly. "Are you threatening me?" Thousand Illusion Granny raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, you think too highly of yourself. If Ying Qianyu was here, perhaps I would give him some face. You want to scare me away with your puny Greedy Wolf star? Not a chance." At this point, the Thousand Illusionary Granny laughed and said indifferently, "You should know that this Granny's Thousand Illusionary Demonic Voice specializes in countering your Ying family's absolute shadow dark force. So let me give you a word of advice. Hurry up and scram. It wouldn't be good if you accidentally lose your life here." As soon as the Thousand Illusion Granny finished speaking, a miraculous scene unfolded. Her appearance suddenly changed. Her old face began to rapidly become younger, as if time had been reversed. In the blink of an eye, the Thousand Illusion Granny's appearance changed from that of a dying old woman to that of a young woman in her 20s. Chapter 23-24. The astonishing change in the Thousand Illusion Granny's appearance caused everyone to be stunned. However, Raindrop Qianye and Nyeyuro, who were by her side, were extremely calm, as if they were already used to this kind of change, and there was nothing to be surprised about. "This Nie Tian gasped, his eyes trembling. What a terrifying illusion! At this time, Fat Cat exclaimed, very shocked. Illusion, illusion? Nie Tian was taken aback. His voice trembled as he asked, Little Fatty, are you saying that the 1,000 illusions Granny's appearance just now was an illusion and not her true appearance? Thinking of 1,000 illusion Granny's withered face, and looking at the charming face in front of him, he couldn't believe it was the same person. Yes. Little Fat Cat nodded and said, I reckon that this woman's current appearance is not her true appearance. It's an illusion again. Nie Tian was so shocked that he almost cried out. He couldn't tell at all that 1,000 illusion Granny had just used an illusion, and now he couldn't feel any flow of illusion power. 1,000 illusion Granny was definitely a peak illusionist. No wonder Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was so afraid of 1,000 illusion Granny. The latter's mastery in illusion was so terrifying. Illusionists were the most terrifying existence among martial artists. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that under the same cultivation, illusionists were much stronger than other martial artists. Many terrifying martial artists didn't even know how they died when encountering illusionists. Rumor has it that 1,000 illusion Granny has 1,000 faces. No one in the world has ever seen 1,000 illusion Granny's true appearance. At this time, Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf spoke. It seems that the rumor is true. Wrong. As soon as he finished speaking, 1,000 illusion Granny smiled charmingly, suddenly turning to look at Li Guang Tongqin. He has seen my true appearance. In this world, there weren't many people who had seen 1,000 illusion Granny's true appearance. Other than herself, Li Guang Tongqin had seen it too. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was stunned, then suddenly reacted, laughing coldly. So 1,000 illusion Granny wasn't standing up for her disciple, but for a man. I guess so. The 1,000 illusions Granny laughed and didn't deny it. She said, 1,000 illusions, like Li Guang Chun, what's wrong with that? You. Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's face stiffened, and he suddenly became speechless. He had originally thought that the 1,000 illusion Granny would avoid it. He did not expect that the 1,000 illusion Granny would actually take the initiative to admit it. Nie Tian smiled faintly and thought to himself, I didn't expect this 1,000 illusions Granny to be so straightforward and honest. At this moment, he suddenly recalled that 1,000 illusion Granny had said that Rui Qianyu's foresight was too poor, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl into a bitter smile. In terms of appearance, Nie Tian was indeed a far cry from Li Guang Tongqin. After all, Li Guang Tongqin was the first ruler of the light elf race. It was undeniable that the elves were much more beautiful than humans. I don't rely on my looks to make a living. The corners of his mouth twitched as Nie Tian comforted himself in his heart. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes flashed. He didn't leave and seemed to be thinking about something. 1,000 illusion Granny, the Ying family doesn't want to be enemies with you. After thinking for a while, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf took a step forward and said in a deep voice, This brat has raw star stones on him. This is something that the Ying family must obtain. No one can stop you. If you really interfere, you will be declaring war with the Ying family. The 1,000 illusion Granny looked at the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf with disdain, as if she was looking at an idiot. She said coldly, Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf, this Granny will give you one last chance. Scram! 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 As soon as the word scram was said, a strange echo reverberated in the air. It was as if a voice was passing through an empty valley. Under the surging sound waves, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf was forced to retreat continuously. The absolute shadow dark force around him weakened a lot. After he stabilized his body, a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. What a strange power! Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. The 1,000 illusion Granny's strength was too strong. Just a faint roar was enough to injure the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf. 1,000 illusory demonic tunes. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes trembled and his expression changed. His eyes surged with unconcealable fear. At this moment, the Thousand Illusion Granny was using the 1,000 illusory demonic tunes. The Ing family's absolute shadow dark force was countered by the 1,000 illusory demonic tunes. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf didn't expect the 1,000 illusory demonic tunes to be so effective against the absolute shadow dark force. His strength was clearly on par with the 1,000 illusion granny, but in front of the latter, he was completely crushed. He originally thought that in front of the 1,000 illusion granny, he still had some strength to resist. But now it seemed that he was too optimistic. The 1,000 illusion granny's current action was clearly a deterrent. QL11 If the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf still didn't know what was good for him, then he couldn't blame the 1,000 illusion granny for being ruthless. Still not going to scram? The 1,000 illusion granny smiled coldly. Her charming eyes revealed killing intent. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's eyes trembled. He was truly unwilling. He had already defeated Li Guang Tongchen. Nie Tian was right in front of him, but he couldn't take him away. I've already come this far. I can't give up. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf suddenly made up his mind. His eyes instantly turned sharp and murderous. Then, his entire body's aura skyrocketed. Rays of terrifying absolute shadow dark force surged out of his body like a black storm. You're courting death. The 1,000 illusion granny saw this scene and sneered. Since you don't care about your life, don't blame me for being ruthless. Everyone was stunned. They clearly didn't expect that the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf would dare to go all out under such circumstances. Greedy Wolf's tribulation. In the sky, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf roared. The dark Shadow Greedy Wolf reappeared. Its body was like a black mountain, boundless and boundless. It fiercely pounced towards the 1,000 illusion granny. The 1,000 illusion granny's expression was indifferent. The 1,000 illusion demonic zither appeared in her hand. The zither vibrated and demonic music swept through the air, turning into an invisible force that surged in the air. In the void, the demonic music set off layers of wave. The entire world seemed to be trembling. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, the boundless demonic music turned into an invisible force that attacked the dark shadow greedy wolf. The huge wolf couldn't withstand the power of the 1,000 illusion demonic music, and its body started to crumble. Buzz! At that moment, the demonic music in the air converged into an invisible blade. A spatial crack appeared in the void. The demonic music blade was extremely sharp. It suddenly moved and slashed towards the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf. The 1,000 illusion demonic music was extremely effective against the absolute shadow dark force. If the demonic music blade landed, the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf would die without a doubt. Ah! The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf suddenly felt a terrifying force coming at him. His eyes trembled and he cried out in fear. Boom! Boom! At that moment 2 parts of the void shook at the same time. Chapter 23-25. The sudden scene caused everyone to be stunned, and they were shocked to the extreme. No one expected that there would be such terrifying figures hidden in the sky. The 2 hidden figures had made a move at the same time, intending to kill the Granny Qianhuan in a single move. Qianhuan, watch out! Li Guangtongchen was the first to react as he yelled out with his pale face turning green. This scene was something that he had never expected. The sudden appearance of the 2 attacks was extremely terrifying. Both of them were pseudo-saint realm experts. Heavenly Evil Monarch. Looking at the 2 attacks, Nie Tian could instantly tell that one of the swords was the aura of the Heavenly Evil Monarch. Li Guangtongchen was right, the Heavenly Evil Monarch had appeared. As for the other attack, it was a ghostly head with a cold aura that wasn't any weaker than the Heavenly Evil Monarch. Teacher! Beside the 1,000 illusionary granny, Rui Qianyu and Ye Yuro exclaimed at the same time with their faces turning pale. Get lost! The 1,000 illusionary granny's eyes flickered as she plucked the strings of her zither. 2 demonic tunes turned into invisible hands that enveloped Rui Qianyu and Ye Yuro, pushing the two of them back. Raindrop, Chinya, and Nyeyuro were too weak. If the two attacks landed, just the aftershocks of their auras alone would be enough to crush them. Dash! In the next moment, the thousand illusionary granny plucked the zither once more and demonic tunes rumbled, forming into a shield that enveloped her. The two attacks came from two different directions, and the thousand illusionary granny could only defend. Rumble! Rumble! The sword and ghostly head descended at the same time, slamming against the demonic tune's shield. Bang! The demonic sound shield immediately shattered, and a terrifying attack instantly descended, forcefully impacting the thousand illusion granny's body. Arg! In the next instant, a mournful shriek resounded as the thousand illusionary granny's body was reduced to a crimson radiance. Arg! At the same time, another miserable shriek resounded from the other side. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's silhouette was pierced by the demonic tunes and exploded. The two bloody scenes caused everyone to stiffen. The scene fell into a deathly silence. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf and the Thousand Illusions Granny had died at the same time. The Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf had died at the hands of the Thousand Illusions Granny, and the Thousand Illusions Granny had died at the hands of two ambushers. No one had expected such a scene to unfold. In particular, the death of the Thousand Illusion Granny was unacceptable. The Thousand Illusion Granny was a pinnacle illusionist with unfathomable strength. Could it be that she had died just like that? The people who ambushed her were two pseudo-sage experts, and the defensive ability of illusionists was very weak to begin with. QL11, it was not surprising that the Thousand Illusion Granny was unable to withstand the sneak attack of two pseudo-saint experts. Thousand Illusions. After a moment of silence, a howl rang out. It was Li Guangtong Chen. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like a crazed beast. His tears struggled, but they still flowed out. He was unable to accept the death of the Thousand Illusion Granny. Teacher. Rui Qianyu and Nyeyuro watched from afar, their faces already covered in tears. Although they had only been apprenticed to the Thousand Illusion Granny not long ago, they had already acknowledged her as their teacher. Most importantly, in that moment of life and death, the Thousand Illusion Granny had disregarded her own safety to protect them. Li Guangtong Chen, I thought you didn't care about me? Why are you crying for me? At this moment, a seductive voice rang out. It was incomparably familiar and alluring. Thousand illusions. Li Guangtong Chen trembled when he heard this voice, as if he was in a dream. Teacher. Rui Qianyu and Nyeyuro were also stunned. That voice clearly belonged to the Thousand Illusion Granny. Everyone was shocked. They didn't know what was going on. And in the sky, the Thousand Illusion demonic zither swayed strangely, and a figure appeared. It was the Thousand Illusion Granny. She stood there, looking at Li Guangtong Chen with watery eyes, her face brimming with happiness. This man had finally cried for her. What happened just now was an illusion. Nie Tian looked at the figure of the Thousand Illusion Granny and immediately understood. The shock in his heart could not be any greater. A peak illusionist would not die so easily. So at the most dangerous moment just now, the Thousand Illusion Granny's figure was hidden inside the Thousand Illusion demonic zither. The Thousand Illusion demonic zither was made from the 9-colored illusion stone, and the strings were made from the demonic silk. Even a false holiness cultivator would find it hard to destroy it. Thousand illusion, you're not dead, you're really not dead. Li Guangtong Chen finally reacted. His voice was trembling with joy, and his eyes were brimming with tears of joy. I haven't even gotten you yet, how can I bear to die? The Thousand Illusion Granny smiled and said, Hurry up and wipe your tears. A man who calls himself an emperor, how can he cry like this? Li Guangtong Chen was stunned, his mouth was wide open, and he was speechless for a long time. Rui Qianyu and Nyeyuro stood there, completely frozen. The others were speechless. The Thousand Illusion Granny was indeed an unfathomable existence. The two of you, come out. At this moment, the thousand illusion granny smiled faintly and said loudly. Shortly after, two silhouettes walked out, both of them wearing masks. One of them was someone that Nye Tian was familiar with, the heavenly evil monarch. As for the other person, he was unfamiliar, but his aura wasn't any weaker than the heavenly evil monarch. Lord! Sikong Xuani couldn't help exclaiming when he saw that person. Glancing at Sikong Xuani, Nye Tian instantly understood what was going on. As for the other stranger, it was the person behind Sikong Xuani. Heavenly evil family and desolate primordial ghost clan. Looking at the two silhouettes, the thousand illusion granny couldn't help smiling. What day is it today? Why are you two old monsters that have disappeared here? Desolate primordial ghost clan. Hearing that name, Li Guang Tongchen's eyes trembled as he exclaimed, "Your desolate primordial evil. Li Guang Tongchen, it's rare that you still remember this emperor." The person named Desolate Primordial Evil coldly replied with killing intent in his eyes beneath the mask. Desolate Primordial Evil is one of the 10 emperors of the Land of Abandonment, the Ghost Emperor. At the same time, Jun Chujian exclaimed with his brows locked. Nye Tian wasn't far from Jun Chujian, so he couldn't help looking over when he heard the latter's words. In the Land of Abandonment, there were once 10 supreme powerhouses, known as the 10 Emperors. Looking at Nye Tian, Jun Chujian transmitted his voice over. Desolate Primordial Evil is one of the 10 Emperors, the Ghost Emperor. Li Guang Tongchen is also one of the 10 Emperors? Nye Tian asked with his brows knitted. Li Guang Tongchen was the first emperor of the Light Fairy clan, with the title of the Light Emperor. So he should be one of the 10 Emperors. Jun Chujian nodded and said in shock, "I didn't expect that these first emperors are still alive." In fact, Jun Chujian had only just found out about Li Guang Tongchen's identity. Previously, he only knew that Li Guang Tongchen's surname was Li. He didn't even know that the latter was a light fairy. Nye Tian's eyes were gloomy, and his brows were tightly knitted. The first emperors of the Land of Abandonment. He really didn't know how long these people had lived. Nye Tian knew that the Ghost Emperor Desolate Primordial Evil was definitely here for him. Chapter 23-26. Sikong Xuani was Desolate E's subordinate, and he came for Nye Tian. However, Sikong Xuani was too weak, so he couldn't bring Nye Tian away. Thus, Desolate E came personally. Up in the sky, Desolate E and the heavenly evil monarch exchanged a look with shock. Evidently, they never expected that the other party would also be hiding in the sky. The two of them had no idea of the other party's existence, but they chose the same timing to make a move, when the thousand illusionary granny killed the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf. They came for Nye Tian, while the thousand illusionary granny was here to protect Nye Tian. Thus, they wanted to kill the thousand illusionary granny. But it was a pity that the thousand illusionary granny's strength had exceeded their expectations. The two of them launched a sneak attack at the same time, but they still failed to kill the thousand illusionary granny. Thousand illusionary granny, no matter how calm you are right now, you can't hide the fact that you're injured. At this moment, Desolate E's voice rumbled like thunder. His gaze was deep, and his eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. I nearly forgot that the Desolate Clan's Eye of Desolation can see through all illusions. The thousand illusionary granny smiled before her face turned ugly. She no longer tried to hide it, and her face turned pale. She was evidently heavily injured. Although Desolate E and the heavenly evil monarch failed to kill her, they managed to injure her. Although she tried her best to maintain her composure, Desolate E still managed to see through her. "Thousand illusionary, you're injured." Li Guang Tongchen's silhouette flashed as he appeared beside the thousand illusionary granny with a nervous expression. "Li Guang, I'm sorry. I've tried my best." The thousand illusionary granny looked at Li Guang Tongchen with a bitter smile, with a trace of blood dripping from the corner of her lip. Her injuries were much more serious than they looked. In this state, She couldn't use the 1,000 illusionary demonic tune anymore. The heavenly evil monarch and desolate, you were both pseudo-saint realm experts, so it would be tough for the 1,000 illusionary granny to fight the two of them, not to mention that she was heavily injured. Qian Huan, Li Guang, Tong Chen, I respect you as the strongest of your generation. You can leave. Huang Chu laughed and said in a low voice. He didn't want to kill Qian Huan, Li Guang, and Tong Chen. His target this time was Nie Tian and the Origin Star Stone. Li Guang and Tong Chen supported the 1,000 illusion granny with their brows tightly knitted together. He did not expect that the enemy this time would be so terrifying. Although he had expected to invite Jun Chujian and the 1,000 illusion granny, it seemed like he had invited too few people. What should we do? Li Guangchen's gaze swept across Nie Tian as his brain worked furiously. In order to protect Nie Tian, he had done his best. Now, facing so many enemies, he was powerless. Is there really no way to protect the Star Saint Lord? Li Guangtongchen thought to himself with an ugly expression. Li Guangtongchen, you no longer have a chance. Give up. Huang Chu's voice was cold with disdain. Thereafter, he looked at the heavenly evil monarch and smiled. You're here for that brat with the Origin Starry Stone? Nodding his head, the heavenly evil monarch looked at Nie Tian. I'm here for Nie Tian, but I will not take him away. I want to take away someone beside him. That's good. Huang Chu's gaze was also fixed on Nie Tian with a sinister smile. We'll take what we need. All right. The heavenly evil monarch acknowledged as he took a step forth. Nie Tian, hand over Jun Ouching. You can't take Jun Ouching away from me unless I die. Nie Tian looked at the heavenly evil monarch without any fear in his eyes. With your current strength, I don't even have the desire to make a move. The heavenly evil monarch sneered. He did not place Nie Tian in his eyes. With his strength and identity, Nie Tian wasn't his opponent. Nie Tian, I have to take Jun Ouching away today. Stop your futile struggle. The heavenly evil monarch cold smiled with a firm gaze. Back then, the reason why he was willing to let Jun Ouching go was because he was afraid of the sacred sky ancestor, and Jun Ouching had yet to awaken her nether ghost bloodline. But now that Jun Ouching had awakened her nether ghost bloodline, it's a different matter. Make your move, Nie Tian said with a cold look in his eyes. Even when facing an opponent that far surpassed him, his fighting spirit wouldn't be extinguished. Only a fight could bring him hope. You're courting death. At that moment, Desolate Beginnings Evil let out a bellow and took a step forward. Like an enraged flood dragon, he unleashed an overwhelming aura that crushed down towards Nie Tian. In the blink of an eye, Nie Tian felt an enormous pressure descend upon him. His entire body sank, and he felt as if he was about to be torn apart. That pressure was too powerful, and even with Nie Tian's powerful martial physique, he couldn't bear it. Brat, aren't you the one chosen by the Origin Star Stone? The corners of Desolation's mouth twitched, and he laughed wildly. Today, I will make you kneel in front of me. Impossible. Nie Tian let out a bellow, his face flushed with blood. However, the look in his eyes was still as fierce as ever, without the slightest fear. Is it impossible? Huang Chu sneered and said, I want to see how much backbone you have. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, an even more terrifying pressure descended. It was boundless, as if it was pressing down from all directions. Under the terrifying pressure, Nie Tian screamed. His entire body was distorted by the pressure. He felt that the blood in his body had stopped flowing. Every bone in his body was creaking as if they would shatter at any moment. His muscles were stretched taut as if they were about to be torn apart. But he stood straight like a mountain, unyielding and unyielding. His knees did not bend in the slightest. He, Nie Tian, was indomitable and would never kneel. Nie Tian! Li Guang, Tong Chen, and the others exclaimed when they saw this scene. Their expressions froze. This brat's tenacity is unimaginable. The way Granny Thousand Illusions looked at Nye Tian also changed. She exclaimed in her heart. At this moment, no one could help Nye Tian. Everyone around him was injured. Anyone who tried to help him would be courting death. Nye Tian's entire body was covered in blood, except for his eyes, which shone like stars. "Get on your knees!" Desolate Evil roared. Never could he have guessed that Nye Tian would be so tenacious. Howling, he increased the pressure. This time, the pressure was many times greater than it had been before. If Nye Tian held on any longer, he would be ripped to shreds. After all, he was only a mid-paramount god, while Desolate Evil was a false sage, close to the level of a sage. Rumble! The pressure weighed down like a mountain, crushing down onto Nye Tian, shattering his bones and ripping his muscles to shreds. In the blink of an eye, he was a mangled mass of blood and gore. When Rainy Thousand Leaves saw this scene from afar, her mouth gaped open, but she was choked with sobs, unable to make a sound. QL11 however, at this moment, Nye Tian was still standing tall and firm. Chapter 23-27. Up in the sky, this tragic scene made everyone's expressions turn stiff. They weren't willing to watch this scene any longer. Even if Nye Tian's body was covered in blood, he still stood firm and did not kneel. They could sense that Nye Tian's martial physique had collapsed with blood gushing out of his body. His bones were shattered and his muscles were torn. The reason why Nye Tian could still stand was due to his willpower. No one could imagine that a person's willpower could be so powerful. The heavenly evil monarch was dumbfounded. Not only was there shock in his eyes, but there was also fear. He couldn't believe that a person's willpower could be so powerful. At this moment, he even felt fearful. He had a feeling that Nye Tian was a frightening person, one who could inspire fear in others. "Since you're not willing to kneel, then die." At this moment, Huangchu Evil roared and his aura soared to the limit. He never expected that Nye Tian would be able to last this long. Since Nye Tian did not kneel, then there was only one outcome for him, death. The violent pressure was akin to a tidal wave as it pressed down on Nye Tian. At this moment, everyone's expression froze. They could sense that even pinnacle paramount gods wouldn't be able to bear this pressure. It was so much so that even a half-saint would be pressured to death. Nye Tian was bathed in blood with his face distorted. As soon as he sensed the enormous pressure, his eyes suddenly turned a strange, pure black color. They flickered with a dark glow, and were extremely cold, like that of a wild beast. Boom! In the next moment, black flames surged out of his body, and he turned into a black fireball in an instant. At this moment, the crowd suddenly felt that there was an additional murderous aura within the bloody stench in the air. It was an extremely evil aura. Dark demonic energy. At the same time, the fat cat exclaimed. Under this tremendous oppression, Nye Tian was actually stimulated to use the power of dark demon essence. Darkness demon essence was bred from the fiend god origin embryo, and it contained a terrifying power of the darkest darkness. Back when Nye Tian was condensing his devil essence, he had lost control of himself. In the end, he had relied on Cher's blood to slowly regain consciousness. At this time, his dark demonic essence was under extreme pressure and exploded again. Nye Tian is about to enter time and space. Fat Cat cried out in horror, looking terrified. He didn't know what would happen if he lost control of his dark demonic yuan. But he was sure that even if his dark devil essence was stimulated, Nye Tian still wouldn't be a match for Huangchu Evil and the others. After all, Nye Tian's strength was far too weak. Even if he had dark demon essence, he still wouldn't be able to display its full power. Roar! In the next moment, Nye Tian suddenly roared like a wild beast. His pure black eyes shot out a dark evil light, and a terrifying power of darkness shot into the sky. It actually broke through the terrifying pressure around him. Huangchu Evil's body trembled slightly, and he was forced to take a few steps back. His eyes trembled as he looked at Nye Tian, and then he sneered and said, "So it's the legendary fiend god Origin Embryo." Roar. Nyetian roared again. He raised his head, and his black eyes were extremely evil. His body surged with a cold, murderous aura. It was bloody and dark, as if he was slaughter itself. When the others saw this scene, they were completely stunned. They didn't know what had happened to Nyetian's body. Boom. At this time, the black flames around Nyetian's body burned even more violently. His figure moved, and he directly rushed towards Huangchu Evil. "You're courting death." With a cold laugh, Wildness Beginning thrust his palm out, and an incomparably violent palm shadow appeared, slamming towards Nyetian in a frenzy. At this moment, the dark demon essence that Nyetian had released was much stronger than before. However, it was completely impossible for him to use this power to fight against Huangchu Evil. Boom! The terrifying palm came crashing down. However, Nyetian was like a wild beast. He completely didn't know fear, and he directly rushed over. If this palm was directly hit, Nyetian would undoubtedly die. Huangchu Evil had come for the Origin Starstone, so he naturally didn't care about Nyetian's life. Even if Nyetian died, the Origin Starstone would still exist. Just as Nyetian was about to die, something strange happened. Roar. In the sky, a shocking dragon roar sounded like thunder from the 9 heavens, shaking the heavens and the earth. Boom. In the next instant, a majestic dragon aura descended from the sky, and actually enveloped Nyetian's entire body. A layer of golden light appeared around Nyetian's body, like a shield opening. Boom! The palm shadow landed on the golden shield, and with a muffled sound, it directly shattered. This sudden scene shocked Huangchu Evil. After his body retreated a few steps, he suddenly stopped and looked up into the sky. In the sky, he saw a giant dragon shining with golden light. The body of the golden dragon was 3,000 meters long, and the golden dragon's scales all over its body emitted a dazzling light. The dragon's might surged for tens of thousands of meters, and even the surrounding space became narrow. This is... Huangchu Evil was stunned for a moment, completely unable to believe his eyes. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak the words in his heart. If he wasn't wrong, this was actually a golden dragon. Golden dragons, the king of the divine dragons. How could he have imagined that there would be a golden dragon here? Didn't the divine dragons go extinct a long time ago? Why were there still dragons alive? Everyone else looked at the golden dragon in the sky, and all of them became wooden statues. This was a real golden dragon, not a dragon shadow or a dragon soul, but a real body of flesh and blood. "Lowly human, if you dare to touch my brother, I will tear you apart." At this moment, a vast and mighty voice sounded in the sky. The body of the golden dragon tumbled down, and like a golden bolt of lightning, it directly attacked Huangchu Evil. In an instant, the void shook, and the heavens and the earth wailed. Huangchu Evil felt the boundless dragon aura, and his eyes suddenly trembled. He actually revealed a look of shock. He knew that the body of a golden dragon at its peak was strong enough to make a true sage feel troubled. The Golden Dragon clan was known as the strongest clan below the sage, and the body of the golden dragon in front of him was far larger than ordinary golden dragons. Clearly, it was a powerhouse of the Golden Dragon clan. He had guessed correctly. This golden dragon was the war god of the Golden Dragon clan in the past. His name was Dishi. At this critical moment, the one who saved Nyetian was his sworn brother in the 3,000 small worlds, the golden dragon Dishi. Dishi's figure was like a golden bolt of lightning, and he came as fast as lightning. Clearly, he wanted to kill Huangchu Evil. Hand of Desolation. Huangchu Evil calmed down and suddenly attacked. The power of his palm turned into a sharp black claw, and he attacked Dishi. Chapter 23-28. Roar! A draconic roar resounded in the sky. Rumble! Rumble! 2 attacks, 1 palm and 1 sword, arrived at the same time and bombarded the huge body of the golden dragon, directly shattering it. The strongest aspect of the divine dragon clan was their dragon physique, and the golden dragon's physique was the most terrifying aspect of the divine dragon clan. Even a quasi-saint realm expert wouldn't be able to break through its body. Russell. Dishi broke through the two attacks. His dragon arm descended from the sky, and a tremendous force surged out. A golden dragon claw image tore through the air, whistling towards Huangchu evil. Bang! A muffled explosion resounded as Huangchu's silhouette was blown 1,000 meters away. When he stabilized himself, he looked at the golden dragon in shock. Standing in the sky, Di Shi's eyes were akin to the sun as he stared at Huangchu's evil and the heavenly evil monarch. QL11 There was a figure standing on his back. It was Ni Jianming. Lord Di Shi, I'll leave this to you. I'll go take a look at Nye Tian. Ni Jianming faintly said as he charged towards Nye Tian. When he arrived beside Nye Tian, he couldn't help knitting his brows when he sensed the killing aura around Nye Tian. Shit, the dark demonic energy in his body has gone out of control. Ni Jianming. At this moment, Nye Yuro's silhouette had also arrived. Rui Qianyu had also arrived. Looking at Nye Tian, who was in a berserk state, her eyes were filled with shock. She had no idea what to do. Up in the sky, a dragon and a human fought, causing the space to tremble. Ni Jianming did not pay any attention to Di Shi's battle. He had placed all his attention on Nye Tian. Nye Tian was enveloped by the draconic aura and was temporarily under Ni Jianming's control. However, he was still releasing a dark aura around him with the blood aura in his body violently surging. If this carried on, his martial physique wouldn't be able to take it, and he would eventually explode. Dragon Vein Seal. At this moment, Nye Tian suddenly opened his mouth and said a few words with great difficulty. Seal of the Dragon Vein? Ni Jianming was stunned for a moment. Then, his eyes trembled as he understood what Nye Tian meant. At this moment, Nye Tian still maintained a trace of consciousness. He realized that he had lost control, so he said the words Dragon Vein Seal. There was a powerful Dragon Vein Seal on Nye Tian's sovereign dragon vein. He had obtained it from the cliff dragon coffin in the forbidden land of wind and cloud. He had briefly unsealed the dragon vein a few times, but that was only under extreme circumstances. At this moment, he wanted Ni Jianming to completely remove the seal on the dragon vein. At this moment, Li Guang, Tong Chen, and Jun Chujian came to Nye Tian's side and looked at Nye Tian in shock. They had no idea what had happened to the latter. Nye Tian wants me to help him remove the seal on the dragon vein and use the power of the seal to break through the dark demonic energy. Ni Jianming looked at Nye Tian as he inwardly muttered in his heart. He had already understood Nye Tian's intention, but he was hesitating if he should do it. He did have a way to help Nye Tian remove the seal on the dragon vein, but could Nye Tian's martial physique bear it? At this moment, Ni Jianming raised his head and looked at the intense battle between Di Shi and the heavenly evil monarch and desolate evil. Nye Tian, spiritual dragon emperor ring. Ni Jianming made up his mind and said. Nye Tian's black pupils trembled as the spiritual dragon emperor ring appeared in his hand. Everyone, please step aside. Ni Jianming took the spiritual dragon emperor ring over and waved his hand, signaling everyone to step back. Then, as a thought entered his mind, the spirit dragon emperor ring unleashed numerous bizarre, dragon-shaped magical symbols, which enveloped Nye Tian and fused into his body. In the next moment, Nye Tian could sense the seal on the dragon vein starting to unseal, turning into a torrential draconic aura that charged into his body. In the next moment, his body underwent a miraculous change. His shattered bones and torn muscles began to heal at a rapid pace. The dragon vein is starting to be unsealed. Ni Jianming's gaze trembled as he swiftly circulated the spiritual dragon emperor ring to unseal the dragon vein. Boundless draconic aura started to permeate around Nye Tian, causing the surrounding space to be enshrouded. Shortly after, Nye Tion's body started to undergo a terrifying change. His body slowly expanded and tore apart. 2 horns grew on the top of his head and fine draconic scales started to appear all over his body. "He's transforming into a dragon!" Enai Jiaming exclaimed as he retreated. Under the impact of the dragon vein's power, the dark demonic aura in Nye Tion's body was suppressed and his divine sense became sober. However, at that moment, he had a very strange feeling. He felt that the dragonization this time was much more terrifying than the previous ones. Previously, he had transformed into a dragon a few times, but the power back then could not be compared to the current one. "Nye Tion, I've released the dragon sovereign soul from the spiritual dragon emperor ring. You will now completely release the power of the dragon vein seal." Enai Jiaming knew that Nye Tion had completely awakened and shouted. Nye Tion was stunned for a moment before he immediately understood. He knew that there was a powerful dragon soul imprisoned in the spiritual dragon emperor ring. It was the dragon sovereign soul of the golden giant dragon tribe. He did not expect Enai Jiaming to release the dragon sovereign soul to help him completely release the power of the dragon vein seal. "Nye Tion, the dragon vein seal in your body is actually formed by the dragon sovereign body." At that moment, Enai Jiaming's voice was heard again, and he said in a deep voice. Nye Tion's eyes trembled slightly as he recalled the scene on the cliff wall of the dragon coffin. When he opened the dragon coffin, the dragon body in the dragon coffin turned into majestic dragon chi and entered his body, forming the dragon vein seal on the 9 dragon veins. He still remembered that he had opened the largest dragon coffin. He did not expect that it was actually the dragon sovereign body. The dragon sovereign body and the dragon sovereign soul. Next, after Nye Tion had completely transformed into a dragon, his power would be the same as the real dragon sovereign. No wonder Nye Tion felt that the dragonization this time was much stronger than before. At that moment, his body changed drastically. His body expanded crazily, and it was no longer possible to tell that he was human. Everyone retreated when they saw this scene. In the blink of an eye, Nye Tion's body had completely transformed into a dragon. His body was over 3,000 meters in size. His dragon head, horns, body, claws, and tail were all made of flesh. He had completely transformed into the body of a golden colossal dragon. Roar! Nye Tion's body moved as he roared into the sky, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. His draconic might spread out tens of thousands of meters. At this moment, he was like a peerless emperor that had become the ruler of this region. It's time for blood to be repaid with blood. In the next moment, Nye Tion's gaze turned to the sky and locked onto desolate evil. At the same time, the battle in the sky had already reached its climax. Even if Di Shi's draconic physique was powerful, it was still taxing for him to face 2 quasi-saint realm powerhouses. Especially the heavenly evil monarch's sword intent, which was extremely terrifying. Under Di Shi's weakened draconic aura, every single sword would leave a bloody wound on his body. At this moment, Di Shi was covered in 10-odd wounds, and his draconic aura was so weak that he couldn't swiftly recover. On the other hand, the heavenly evil monarch and desolate evil still maintained their powerful fighting strength. Roar! However, Emperor Shi wasn't afraid. With a furious roar, he charged at Huangchu evil. But at this moment there was a sudden change. Bang! In the sky, a black sword image appeared like a ghost, and it struck directly towards Di Shi. That sword's aura was even stronger than the heavenly evil monarch's. Chapter 23-29. Boom! High up in the sky, the black shadow of the sword pierced through the air. It was extremely sharp and carried an extremely dense murderous aura. Without the slightest bit of defense, the black sword shadow fell straight down, accurately bombarding the heart-protecting dragon scales on Di Shi's chest. The heart-protecting dragon scale, the reverse dragon scale, couldn't withstand the black sword and shattered. Roar! With the heart-protecting dragon scale destroyed, Di Shi's massive figure was blown away by the terrifying sword intent as he unleashed a draconic roar. Up in the sky, the crimson dragon's scales fell and the atmosphere was filled with a dense stench of blood. At the same time, a black-clothed figure appeared in the dark space, and his cold eyes stared fixedly at Di Shi with disdain and murderous intent. Evidently, he was the one that launched the sneak attack. Everyone was stunned by the sudden scene. The heavenly evil monarch and Huangchu were stunned as they looked at the black-clothed silhouette with unconcealable fear in their eyes. The two of them could sense that the aura of this newcomer was above their own. The sword descended and directly shattered the golden colossal dragon's heart-protecting dragon scales. One could imagine the power of this sword. Even someone as powerful as the heavenly evil monarch had to admit that the black-clothed silhouette was terrifying. Big Brother Di Shi. When Nie Tian saw this scene from afar, his draconic eyes suddenly trembled and a thunderous roar resounded. His silhouette flipped in the sky as he flew towards Di Shi. Di Shi's silhouette hovered in the sky with his massive body covered in wounds with blood constantly flowing out. It was a fatal blow to him that the heart-protecting dragon scale was destroyed. You're the Dragon Emperor! Di Shi stabilized his body and looked at Nie Tian's silhouette. His voice was filled with shock as his pupils trembled. At this moment, the silhouette that appeared before him was the Dragon Emperor of the Golden Dragon Clan. Big Brother Di Shi, I'm Nie Tian. Nie Tian's voice resounded as he unleashed a boundless draconic aura that enveloped Di Shi and healed his injuries. Nie Tian's current body was indeed the body of the Dragon Monarch, but his consciousness was his own. It was not surprising that Di Shi mistook him for the Dragon Emperor. Sacred Lord Xian long released the Dragon Emperor's soul? Di Shi suddenly came to his senses. His shaking dragon head suddenly froze, and his entire body stiffened. He seemed to have realized something terrifying. Big Brother Di Shi, are you alright? Nie Tian couldn't help but be stunned when he saw Di Shi's reaction, and he asked. Di Shi's dragon body froze in the air. Golden tears welled up in his eyes and slowly flowed down his cheek. Nie Tian had a puzzled look on his face. He did not know what was wrong with Di Shi. Why did he suddenly cry? Big Brother Di Shi, you. Stunned for a moment, Nie Tian didn't know what to say. Nie Tian, don't worry about me. Let me see His Majesty Dragon Emperor's heroic appearance again. Di Shi said in a deep voice, his eyes trembling intensely. Okay. Nie Tian heavily nodded his head before he turned his head and looked at the black-clothed man, as well as the heavenly evil monarch and Huangchu evil monarch. Another golden dragon. The black-robed figure was also looking at Nie Tian at this moment. His eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. His silhouette was enveloped in a dark aura, and his entire body was in a bizarre state. Aside from his eyes, the rest of his body didn't seem to be corporeal. At this moment, the thousand illusion granny suddenly sensed something and exclaimed. She couldn't continue her sentence. Jueying Palace Master, Ing Qianyu. Practically at the same time, a voice resounded in Nie Tian's ears. It was Enai Jianming. Enai Jianming came to Nie Tian's side and suppressed the rage in his eyes as he looked at the black-clothed man. The person that suddenly appeared and heavily injured Di Shi was the hall master of the Jueying Palace, the Ing family's patriarch, Ing Qianyu. Enai Xianlong, I didn't expect you to still be alive, Ing Qianyu said with a cold gaze as he stared at Enai Jianming. Ing Qianyu, it's all thanks to you that the Dragon Rebel clan has come this far, Enai Jianming said coldly. How can I be willing to die when you're still alive? The weak can only be unwilling. Ing Qianyu laughed. His eyes were extremely calm as he said, the reason why this world is interesting is because there are too many unfairness. It's not my fault that the Dragon Rebel clan was destroyed by you. It's because you and I Xianlong are too weak. Good and evil, right and wrong have always been decided by the victor. The one who walks to the end is the one who is right. If you can't even understand such a simple logic, how can the Dragon Rebel clan not decline? His calm voice revealed a kind of high and mighty arrogance, completely like the tone of a judge. There was insufferably arrogance in his indifference. Nie Tian looked at Ing Chinyu with his eyes narrowed. He had never imagined that the Lord of Juying Palace would appear here. He still hadn't figured out what kind of organization the Juying Temple was. He wasn't even sure if Juying Temple was part of the abandoned land. But why did he feel that Ing Chinyu's strength was not very strong? It seemed that he was not much stronger than the other member of the Ing clan, Ingyue Greedy Wolf. This made him feel a little strange. Is it right to bully the weak and annihilate the other races? Anai Jiaming responded coldly and asked cold. If this king says it's right, then it's right, and if this king says it's wrong, then it's wrong. Ing Chinyu sneered and said arrogantly, the strong decide who's right and who's wrong, the weak can only accept it. Anai Jiaming's gaze was gloomy and his face was extremely gloomy. Strength was the greatest right to speak. Without strength, no matter how loud you screamed, no one would listen. At that moment, Ing Chinyu's eyes locked on Nie Tian's figure and he said coldly, You're Nie Tian. You're the one who got the raw starstone, right? Yes, Nie Tian responded indifferently, neither servile nor overbearing. The Nie clan of the Nine Realms. Ing Chinyu's eyes narrowed slightly and he let out a long sigh. You know about the Nine Realms? About the Nie clan? Nie Tian was stunned. He was quite surprised. He hadn't expected that someone of Ing Chinyu's status would know about the Nine Realms and the Nie clan. You're too weak. You're not qualified for me to answer your questions. Ing Chinyu smiled cold and said, Make your move. Let me see how strong the legendary Dragon Emperor is. As soon as he finished speaking, boundless sword essence surged around him, rolling like a tide and surging with darkness. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and his expression was very strange. At this moment, the darkness sword essence that Ing Chinyu had unleashed was similar to the Shadow Moon Greedy Wolf's absolute shadow dark energy. It was as if this person's aura was even more bizarre, as if he couldn't be seen through. At the same time, the heavenly evil monarch and desolate evil monarch had also unleashed their terrifying auras. Evidently, they were prepared to make a move together. QL11 at this moment, Nie Tian's body was even larger than Dishi, and the dragon aura around him was even more majestic. His strength was even more terrifying than Dishi at his peak. Chapter 23:30. Roar! A draconic roar resounded in the sky, shaking the heavens and earth. An unprecedented battle was about to erupt. Everyone retreated a few 100,000 meters away, but they could still sense the boundless momentum. Nie Tian could feel the power in his body swelling to the limit. It was as if every single move of his possessed the power to annihilate the heavens and earth. Kill! The heavenly evil monarch was the first to make a move. He roared and slashed his sword down from the sky, unleashing a dazzling luster that caused the heavens and earth to tremble. Crack! Nie Tian's body surged without any fear. When he waved his tail, a terrifying spatial crack appeared. Dragon aura could weaken spacetime, to begin with, and with the Dragon Emperor's soul and Dragon Emperor physique. The dragon aura in Nie Tian's body was boundless, and it could cause great damage to spacetime. Bang! In the next moment, the terrifying sword descended. The golden dragon waved his arm, and a dragon aura surged. A dragon claw appeared and clashed with the sword. Kaboom! Crack, crack, crack. In the next moment, a space crack that was thousands of meters long appeared in the void, and it was torn to both sides. It was a terrifying scene. It was as if a giant beast that had been slumbering in the void had suddenly opened its huge mouth of darkness. The golden dragon rolled and swiftly retreated, avoiding the spatial storm in the spatial crack. Rumble! The heavens and earth wailed as space trembled. Even the ground down below started to tremble. This scene was too terrifying, and it made everyone tremble in fear. Just a moment ago, spacetime was already on the verge of collapsing. If the battle continued at this level, the sacred world fragment would definitely shatter. How terrifying! Everyone's eyes trembled as they looked at the battle in the sky. Nye Tian, your sovereign dragon bloodline is truly powerful to be able to unleash the might of the Dragon Emperor. And I Jiaming looked at Nye Tian and inwardly muttered. Truth be told, he was extremely shocked. He never expected that Nye Tian would be able to control the Dragon Emperor's physique. After all, Nye Tian was a human martial artist. Even with the Dragon Emperor's physique and Dragon Emperor's soul, this couldn't be changed. And I Jiaming was worried that Nye Tian would not be able to unleash the true power of the Dragon Dominator. But now, it seemed that his worries were unnecessary. By relying on the Prime Dragon Vein, not only did Nye Tian bring out the Dragon Monarch's might, but he was even stronger than the original Dragon Monarch. How is this possible? Shi was also extremely surprised. He knew that Nye Tian was currently in the form of a Dragon Emperor, but the combat strength that the latter had displayed was even more terrifying than that of a real Dragon Emperor. As far as Shi was concerned, this was completely impossible. How could a human control the body of a golden dragon so precisely? However, the truth was right in front of them. Nye Tian had indeed displayed a strength that was more terrifying than the real Dragon Emperor. High up in the sky, Nye Tian's body was entrenched, and his eyes were trembling. At this moment, he did not unleash the power in his body, since he was worried that space might shatter at any moment. Nye Tian, there's no need for us to fight to the death. Hand the Netherworld Princess over to me, and I will immediately leave. The heavenly evil monarch roared as he looked at Nye Tian. It was so much so that he couldn't believe that his opponent was actually Nye Tian. Not long ago, Nye Tian had been an insignificant figure who couldn't even enter his eyes. Heavenly evil monarch, you've overestimated yourself. Whether you're here or not, you're not a threat to me. Nye Tianling coldly replied with his voice filled with disdain. Arrogant! The heavenly evil monarch's gaze froze as he roared. The sword aura around him surged to the limits and gathered into his strongest sword as he slashed down. At the same time, desolate beginning, he also made a move. As he thrust his palm out, countless illusory skulls appeared in the sky, which then came crashing down towards Nye Tian like an avalanche. Since the two of you are courting death, then I'll fulfill your wish. Facing the joint attack of the two, Nye Tian showed no fear. On the contrary, he roared with laughter and his massive silhouette flipped as he charged forth. Golden light shone around him, and at the same time, the power of crimson lightning surged. His silhouette was akin to a bolt of crimson lightning as he charged forth. QL11, not only could Nye Tian control the golden dragon's body, but he could also bring out the sovereign dragon bloodline's power. It was precisely because of the sovereign dragon bloodline that his fighting strength was even stronger than the Dragon Emperor. Rumble! Boom! In the next moment, the golden dragon clashed with the sword, causing the sword to freeze before it crumbled. Shortly after, Desolate Chu Yi's palm also descended, but it was shattered by the golden dragon's attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Endless wild power raged in the space, shaking the whole world. Space cracks appeared one after another, and space-time storms shuttled back and forth in the space, like dancing snake. Relying on his divine dragon physique, Nye Tian resisted the storm. On the other hand, the heavenly evil monarch and desolate Chu Yi were in a miserable state, since they had to constantly unleash their power to resist the storm. As long as it wasn't a large-scale storm, a quasi-saint realm expert wouldn't pose much of a threat to them. Roar! Suddenly, a draconic roar resounded as a crimson silhouette pounced forth like a bolt of lightning. Sensing the boundless power sweeping over, the heavenly evil monarch squinted his eyes and instantly felt that something was amiss. However, he still maintained his composure and slashed out with his sword while retreating. But it's a pity that the golden dragon silhouette was extremely swift as it charged through his sword and pounced towards him. Bang! In the next moment, a muffled explosion resounded as a crimson silhouette flew out, drawing a bloody arc in the sky. That crimson silhouette was the heavenly evil monarch. As a quasi-saint realm expert and an expert swordsman, the heavenly evil monarch was instantly suppressed by Nyetian. Heavenly evil monarch, get lost! A violent roar resounded, along with a thunderous draconic roar that shook the heavens and earth. The heavenly evil monarch barely managed to stabilize himself, but he was covered in blood with his face as pale as paper. He was terrified. He couldn't imagine how Nyetian was so powerful that he couldn't even withstand a single charge from the latter. Leave! The heavenly evil monarch's gaze sank as he roared in his heart and retreated. He came for Jun Ouching, but the situation in front of him was far beyond his expectations. He had never expected that Nyetian would attract so many powerful experts who had been missing for a long time. Compared to these experts, even though he was a member of the Tianxia family, he seemed insignificant. At this moment, he could only leave. If he continued to stay here, he might even lose his life. He's really gone. When everyone saw the heavenly evil monarch's silhouette disappearing, they were stunned. A false saint expert was actually defeated by Nyetian with a single strike. Nyetian's strength was monstrous. Retreat! Desolate Chu Yi's eyes trembled as he also had the intention to retreat. His strength was on the same level as the heavenly evil monarch, so it's impossible for him to fight with Nyetian. Chapter 23:31. Desolation felt a strong sense of helplessness when Nyetian's gaze locked onto him. At this moment, he could not help but look at Ng Qianyu. The latter was standing in the void, releasing a strong dark aura from his body. He seemed to be preparing for something and did not intend to attack immediately. Desolation, didn't you ask me to kneel just now? Nie Tianling laughed and said in a deep voice, now, it's time for you to pay with your blood. Just now, Desolation had forced Nie Tian to kneel and almost killed him. If it weren't for the fact that Nie Tian possessed a divine devil nascent embryo, which allowed him to unleash dark devil power, he would have been a corpse by now. With such a deep hatred, how could he let Desolation leave just like that? If I want to leave, no one can stop me. Desolation calmed down a little and growled. Terrifying runes surged from his body. Those runes were very strange, as if they had a life of their own. They actually condensed into a huge shadow of a Desolation ghost outside his body. It was like a dark armor, releasing a cold, ghostly aura. Is this all you've got? Nie Tianling sneered and said disdainfully, too weak. Desolation's aura was already very strong, but compared to the current Nie Tian, it was still too weak. The Golden Dragon clan was known as the strongest clan below the sages. This title was not just for show. The strength that Nie Tian displayed at this moment was even stronger than the real Dragon Emperor. He did not expect that the dragonization this time would be so strong. He could feel the power that was about to burst out, surging and boundless, as if it was inexhaustible. Nie Tian, you're too arrogant. Feeling Nie Tian's contempt, Desolation roared. The aura of his body instantly soared to the extreme, and he directly punched down. The violent fist shadow hit the void like an ancient beast, with an extremely powerful aura, as if it wanted to destroy everything. When Nie Tian saw this, he was not afraid in the slightest. His dragon eyes that were like the sun and moon surged with undisguised disdain. Perhaps Desolate Beginning Evil's attack was a fatal blow to others. However, in Nie Tian's opinion, this level of attack wouldn't pose the slightest threat to his dragon body. Roar! The huge body of the dragon rolled out, and a terrifying dragon chi filled the void, stirring up heavy air waves. At this moment, even heaven and earth were trembling. Bam! The giant golden dragon whizzed out like a bolt of golden lightning, directly shattering the fist shadows in the air. Boom! In the next moment, the huge dragon's body was like a sharp sword, descending upon the desolate ghost phantoms around Desolate Beginning Evil's body, exploding with a terrifying roar. Bang! In the instant that they collided, the wild ghost shadow was unable to withstand the might of the golden dragon and collapsed with a loud bang. It turned into boundless power that wreaked havoc in the air. Die! Nye Tian let out a thunderous roar, unleashing heaven-shaking dragon might. Like raging waves, boundless dragon chi burst forth with unstoppable power. Desolate beginning evil's figure stood in the void, but he was like a broken leaf in the wind, about to be completely torn to pieces at any time. No! At this moment, desolate beginning evil felt the real aura of death approaching. He was so frightened that his eyes trembled and he screamed. You want me to kneel, but I want you to kneel. Nye Tian's body floated in the void, and he waved his dragon claws. Two sharp rays of light whizzed out, directly towards desolate beginning evil. QL 11-inch bang, bang. With two muffled sounds, desolate beginning evil's knees were directly shattered by the impact. His body sank and he really knelt there. Nye Tian was not a person who repaid evil with good. He was a person who would take revenge for every grievance, and investigate every flaw. If you hurt me, I will return it to you double. Those who couldn't kill him would only make him stronger. Desolate beginning evil wanted him to kneel, to attack his martial heart, and to humiliate him. At this moment, he had the strength to crush desolate beginning evil. Of course, he had to take revenge. No, don't kill me. Desolate beginning evil's face was already pale with fear. He felt the terrifying dragon chi in the surrounding space, and his entire body was trembling. Even his tongue could not stop moving. Do you know how to beg for mercy? In the void, Nye Tian's cold laughter rang out, and he said loudly, I want to beat you until you beg for mercy, but I will not spare you. As Zhang's violent voice fell, the draconic chi in the air became violent, turning into streaks of golden light that continuously rushed towards desolate evil. Nye Tian could have directly killed desolate beginning evil, but he chose to use a method that was almost humiliating to torture the other party. His method was indeed cruel, but he did not feel the slightest bit of guilt for using it on desolate beginning evil. Because just now, desolate beginning evil had similarly humiliated him. Today, Nye Tian wanted to let desolate beginning evil understand the principle of not doing to others what you do not want done to yourself. Desolate beginning evil's body trembled non-stop, and the ghost chi all over his body was slowly weakening. He had not expected that he, a dignified ghostly emperor, would be so vulnerable in front of Nye Tian. Even his eye of the desolation could not pose any threat to Nye Tian. At this moment, a low voice suddenly came from the void. Nye Tian, your arrogance ends here. Immediately, dark runes appeared in the air, instantly filling the space within hundreds of thousands of meters. The space was filled with an extremely sinister aura. It was extremely terrifying. Nye Tian was suddenly stunned. He immediately felt that the dragon chi around his body was being strongly suppressed. Go! Desolate beginning evil immediately seized the opportunity and let out a low roar. His figure instantly moved, turning into a stream of ghost chi and disappearing in the space. Upon seeing this, Nye Tian's eyes grew cold. He was just about to make a move to kill desolate Chu Yi, but at that moment, he suddenly sensed a terrifying force coming from the void. Bam! Before he could even react, he felt a violent impact on his dragon body. A bloody wound appeared on the dragon's body, and fresh blood gushed out incessantly. It's a boundary! Nye Tian was stunned for a moment, but he immediately reacted. His eyes revealed an uncontrollable fear. Only then did he realize that Ing Qianyu had not made a move earlier because he had been secretly preparing a boundary. Nye Tian, this is the absolute shadow dark world that I have specially prepared for you. Just wait for your death in the boundary. Ing Qianyu's voice sounded in the void. It was very strange, as if it came from the void itself, and came from all directions. Oh no! Nye Tian was stunned, and he knew that things were not going well. He was too careless, and he did not pay any attention to Ing Qianyu. He knew that Ing Qianyu was the most terrifying enemy in this battle. He initially wanted to get rid of the heavenly evil monarch and desolate beginning evil before dealing with Ing Qianyu. However, he never expected that Ing Qianyu would actually activate a powerful boundary. Kakik. Suddenly, a mournful cry resounded from the absolute shadow boundary, as if it was a demon,